本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。What's good, Internet? It is Friday, September 13th, 2019, and you are listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 263. I'm your host, Austin Walker. I've come in from the cold. I'm going to go back to the cold as soon as we're done this podcasting, though, because I still have a couple days left on my vacation. But I'm here to talk about all the important things, and I'm here to talk about them with Ricardo Contreras here in Brooklyn.
It's like 7. It was 85 yesterday.
Going back into the cold. I got a fan set up and everything. Patrick Klepek also here.
Yeah, it was 90 degrees on Tuesday, and now it's 72.
Brr.
Also, legitimate tornado warning yesterday. I went into the lower basement with my daughter and my dog because I got like
Pause.
a notification. I got
the lower basement.
Yeah.
How many basements do you have? Are
the
you
lower floor? We have we have a
okay.
split level, so it's
Gotcha.
not like a basement, but it's like a pseudo basement because it's like halfway between underground.
Okay.
I thought you were describing your house like a Resident Evil like dungeon.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we got a basement, and then we got the lower basement. That's where you find all the deep lore.
LB1, LB2.
Yeah, exactly. It jumps to LB5. I don't know what happened to 3 and 4. You'll have to get the DLC for those.
I've never gotten the emergency notification on my phone, like a Amber Alert type thing, and I'm sitting there like my daughter's eating food, and then all of a sudden I've got my headphones on, I'm listening to a podcast, and while I'm making dinner, and just like brr, brr, and it's wow, it's loud.
Rob Zachney, I hope you've had no tornado warnings, though I do appreciate the physical force now possible in your homestead thanks to those giant speakers I see behind you.
Yeah, no tornadoes here, but a lot of sonic hurricanes when I crank these babies.
I see.
Yeah, and a lot of interesting discourse in my mentions because of Rob.
Oh my God, I saw some of
the
that.
sound, the audio discourse.
Audio and class. They're related. This is the point you did not understand.
Yeah, okay, Rob.
Which type of class are we talking about here? Are we talking about because it sounds like we're talking about capital C class, as in, is your purchase of a hi-fi stereo system class warfare?
Which bourbon should I be drinking? This kind of class.
God, how's everyone doing? How has everyone been in the last couple of weeks? It's been a minute for me, and it feels like the world has kept turning. And from the outside, y'all have been doing a really good job. You have not only made podcasts about Rob's speaker purchases, but also about video games and news in the world of video games and everything else. But there was one thing you didn't. It turned out no one here I felt like could tackle, and so I had to take a step up to the plate. And I wrote a review of Daemon X Machina, the mech game du jour, as only I could. That's not true. I actually feel like Cado has.
I could maybe.
I think you could do it. And
I feel like this is the start of Austin's
different.
Vegas period.
What's that mean? What do you mean? Oh, I see what you're saying.
You're right.
Here,
as only he can.
As only I can.
Is your Austin Walker.
That's right.
With a mech game review.
With a mech
and
game.
you come out in like a really
just
cheesy
gaudy
suit,
yeah.
just like it's velour but shiny.
Hey everybody,
and
how's
you
it
just
going?
sort of sit down and you're like, let me tell you about my favorite Gundam series.
How's the
and it's
blackjack's
different every time. Everyone's just like,
everybody.
oh damn, what's it gonna be?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's also actually before we get into the mech review, we talk about something else very important. Cado and I went to go see a Gundam movie a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
we don't need to turn this into a Waypoint, but that was a really fun experience.
was.
I've only seen Gundam in a theater once. I've seen like anime in a theater a dozen times maybe, but seeing a particular Gundam movie that is, I wouldn't say a good movie, but with an audience that's tuned in and that is reacting to the moments was really great.
Yeah, it was super fun. And yeah, that movie had, luckily up front before the show started, they gave context to how that movie was produced, which was, it used to be TV scripts, and you can tell.
Oh yeah, it's like the first act of a 50-episode TV show, except compressed into 2 hours. And I don't mean that they shot 15 episodes or 13 episodes or whatever. I mean, he had scripts for them, and then they were like, you're not going to get this as a series.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, then we'll do it as a movie. I'm like, all right. That means that there's going to be really weird compression issues in this story. That means that like a character is going to be in a fight. It's going to cut like to recognize that the fight ended. And then the next scene is the same character in a different space colony infiltrating a palace with no connective tissue at all. But it was a blast. I'm really glad that we got to see it was Gundam F91 for those curious. So that was fun. And that was a great way to top off a week for me playing Daemon X Machina. Review of which is up on the site now. I think people remember that a few months ago when they released the first demo, I was pretty skeptical of the game. It has a great crew on it, including some folks who worked in the old Armored Core games, including some fantastic people from the world of mech anime. But I was like, okay, this just doesn't feel good. Like, the first most important thing about these games, it just doesn't feel good. This isn't going to be the one that gets people into it. But then it came out, and I spent 25 hours or so playing through all the main content. And I think maybe the best thing I can say about this game is last night with the review written, I went back and was like doing side objectives that I'd skipped over. Not even side missions, but like main missions I'd cleared with side bonus objectives that I hadn't managed to put together. And so that was really fun. It is a third-person like shooter style action thing, like the Armored Core series, that is filled with a lot of anime bullshit. It has some great third-act turns that are either incomprehensible or really solid, depending on what your tolerance is for that sort of thing. But I think more than anything, I just like how the game feels. I put some GIFs in there, and it like in that review.
So that demo got framey. Does it still have those issues?
No, it's like this. It's actually really solid in terms of at least in on my screen. Like in handheld mode, it got a little framier. I want to say maybe. Yeah. I only played it in handheld mode a little bit. I mostly played it on a big screen. And I didn't get to try the ridiculous hoary sticks or like control thing that they're releasing for, but I did order that. Did you see that? It looks like they split a Switch Pro or an Xbox 360 controller in two, and I cannot wait to have that for other games because my hands cramp on the Switch a lot. I don't know if that's like a me thing, but having just a Switch Pro style controller that I can hook to that thing to play on my couch I'm excited about.
I don't know. I think I'm of the few people that for some reason the Switch feels right. I think I have slightly smaller hands than average or something. Yeah. But it's comfortable.
Yeah.
So like that thing seems ridiculous to me, but like only because I've never had the kind of issues that people.
It's mostly when I'm playing something for a long time. It happened it happened right away when I first got the Switch with Breath of the Wild because I was playing it for such long periods. But I kind of was like, I'm just going to fight through it. I want to play
that
more of this
in
game.
handheld mode specifically?
Handheld mode. Yeah, if I had separated them, I'm fine.
Or what about in the grip?
What do you mean? In the grip, I'm fine too. I'm talking about when I'm holding the
like
Switch.
Sideways, yeah. Okay.
The thing that I think is like super interesting about Daemon X Machina, and I've tweeted a little bit about this, is, and I'm curious from Rob and Patrick if you have this sort of thing, is the way in which it is such a niche. It is responding to a niche audience, or it is for a niche audience in the sense that it is so clearly a follow-up to those old Armored Core games. And those games have their differences. If you're a diehard, you know what those differences are. But from the outside, those are the games what you kill giant robots in. And it was really interesting to think about how to frame a review for a wider audience, for a game that is maybe trying to hit that wider audience, knowing that I'm in that niche and wondering, to what degree should I restrain the knowledge that I have and the affection that I have for that niche? To what degree should I try to translate that experience? I thought a lot with this game, Rob, with you in racing games specifically, because of how much specifically the argument I'm trying to make is with that review is that the thing I like about the game is the way in which you slowly come to understand and learn to have control of this thing that is faster than you, that is a little out of control. But like, what do you do in that scenario as a writer? I'm curious for both of you, when you know you're deeper into this thing than your audience might be.
I mean, usually my approach is to try to express the appeal as I see it, right? Like, sort of get you to a place where you may not be into this thing, but imagine if you were. Here's what I see when I look at this thing. You wouldn't necessarily see it, but why don't you look over my shoulder and try to see it through my eyes? And then I can tell you why I feel this way about this game and not that one, where it's like, if you're not into this, you don't care about it, they might appear equivalent or identical. I really like the passage in the Daemon X Machina review where you're talking a little bit about how in shooters, there tends to be this idea of fluidity, seamlessness that is often sort of held up uncritically as good thing. But the way you engage there as like, yeah, but with a mech game, not necessarily. Like fluid, smooth, reactive controls are not necessarily what I want. And actually things that other people might find bad feeling or frustrating, to me, as someone who approaches these games looking for this particular feeling, for this particular experience to be evoked, that delay, that sort of cumbersomeness, this feeling of controlling a body not my own, is kind of the point. And so I understand why people might be put off by this. But from my perspective, this is actually kind of a really smart touch that you might not think about.
Totally. I think there's like one really good example of that and how the game like communicated that with me over the course of play is, so there's a lot of types of mechs you can build in this game, despite the fact that they're all just humanoid mechs, right? They're humanoid mechs that can fly around, which is one type of mech that other mech games will sometimes include, other times exclude, and Armored Core games, with which I put this in the lineage of, both include and also don't necessarily focus on, with some exceptions in that series. The old Armored Core games, you could just as easily be a big spider mech with like 4 legs walking around that's like a stable, like heavy gunnery platform or a tank tread thing. In this, you're always
a huge part. Armored Core is very much about like customization, right?
100%.
Like you were building, like there was an identity tied to the mech you were building. You were dealing with weight and like constraints. That it sounds like this game is more about built stuff that they're.
It has customization. It has like a solid amount of customization, but the frame is the frame, right? You're not going to be on tank treads. You're not going to be on weird reverse jointed legs that can jump higher, but and run faster, but maybe aren't as good at boosting or whatever. You're not dealing with like fire control systems and other types of like antennae and stuff like that, which is like radars, which you were doing in Armored Core. This is like, all right, there are 5 parts to your body: legs, torso, head, left arm, right arm, and then there are like 2 weapons you hold in each, 1 weapon in each hand, backup weapons on your shoulders or on like you have like pylons, 1 shoulder-mounted weapon, and then an auxiliary system, which is like, here's a cool thing you can do when you hit the Y button. For me, it was, I want to be able to get to the ground fast, so I have like downward-facing boosters, so I would hit that. That I left on basically
my favorite yoga move.
Downward thrusting booster, exactly. So there is that range in this game in the sense that you can have like a really fast mech that has Uzis and there's like doing loops around people, or a really slow mech that is like mostly on the ground and stomping around, but is still able to travel in the air. But the thing I was going to get to is the thing that I built was a sort of like mid-range thing, because that's video games. I'm like, I kind of want to be able to do a little bit of everything. I want to feel everything out. Yeah. But my favorite gun in the game was a variation of one of the first guns I got, which was just this bazooka. And early on in the game, I missed a lot with it. You're firing a like rocket and it goes past the enemy because it's a single shot. This is a game that does calculate like projectile speed. And so a fast like sniper rifle or railgun might take longer between rounds, but it's going to hit because it's like, boom, it's out the barrel. It's across the distance. It hits the enemy and they go tumbling. A rocket or a bazooka shell or whatever is slow and you can see it traveling in space. And these are fast mechs and helicopters and drones. And so it was good on ground vehicles at first. And it was like fun to like, zip past a turret and turn down and shoot the turret and it blows up in a nice big, dome of fire. But against mechs, it was like my secondary weapon. I could hit them when they ran out of boost and they had to take to the ground for a second. I could hit them when they were up against a wall and I knew even if I missed, the AoE would hit them. But over the course of gameplay, as I got better at reading angles, and as I learned the limits of that weapon, and as I like adjusted by putting an arm that had better, tracking on it, I was suddenly able to hit these shots, not by lining up a shot. Like again, the thing about these games is you don't have a reticle. You do a reticle, but it is doing a lot of auto locking. It's as if your arms can automatically lock into anything that's within a certain like big reticle. It's like draw a circle on your screen, and anything in that that range, your arms are going to track to and aim at. And that circle can get bigger if you have like a special head that, robot head that can see wider, that can aim more wide, whatever the fuck it is, whatever you want to talk about. It's like the firing range is wider or deeper. Sometimes it can see further. It can track stuff a little bit further away. But by the end of that game, I was doing these motions where I was like flying past something, shooting, and you could see that I was leading the target with the rocket shell. And part of that is knowing the angles, and part of it is upgrading the mech, and all of that stuff comes together in such a way that is just like, wow, this is awesome. And I wouldn't have gotten that feeling if at the start of the game I could just line up and shoot things the way I could in Control, which is just doing a different thing, which I played over the break also a little bit more. Yeah. That game fucking rules. Yeah. And I'm glad in that game to come out the gate, get a couple of powers, and feel ultimately super powerful, even if I also want this other experience is really what I'm getting. I also do like that in a game like Daemon X Machina, I can be like, whoa, this thing is not doing the thing I want it to do right away. How do I? Okay, let me get a little bit more. Let me get it into my blood a little bit more, and then I can really make it do the thing I want it to do.
Question for you to that idea of the progression of your character / mech, influencing the way just the game plays and feels. Something that I sometimes experience both in racing games, but also TIE Fighter is a good reference point here, where less capable, cruder machines are more interesting to play with because of those limitations. Like having to have a jank-ass rocket launcher that cycles too long between rounds and has a ridiculous long flight time because it doesn't have enough velocity. All these things make it tough to land those shots, but also they're enormously satisfying when you do land them. And I remember really well how, for instance, in TIE Fighter, the first entire campaign you play in that game is all the original TIE Fighters from the movies. So the TIE Fighter, the TIE Interceptor, the Bomber, and all have really clear trade-offs that they've made. But you're vulnerable in kind of all of them. Later on in the expansions, they just start giving you super vehicles that kind of make a lot of the trade-offs you were having to weigh in your mind in the earlier missions kind of irrelevant. That's no longer what the game is about. And I'm curious, did that degree of empowerment in Daemon X Machina manage to move the problem space into another interesting direction, or did it begin detracting from the satisfaction of mastery for your vehicle?
I will say that in the final fifth of the game, there are a couple of fights that just become slogs in the sense that it felt like the only thing they could do is throw higher HP pools at you. But those are broken up with really good boss fights, and even there, I'd say, I'm thinking 4 fights in particular. I would say 3 of those 4 fights still wound up being very fulfilling because of the way they wrapped up some narrative stuff for me. They're big, you're squaring off against rival type shit, and okay, cool, I'm still here for it. I guess the other half of this to think about is mostly it doesn't have a progression curve tied to your mech that is linear. There are some exclusions there, but the reason I kept using my bazooka from the beginning of the game, the whole game, was not because I wasn't unlocking other bazookas. It's because it was the one that I felt I liked the most. There was a rocket pod I kept going back to also that I liked more than the quote-unquote second or third or fourth tier ones. It was probably not as strong as the rocket pod that could fire 300 missiles in a row slowly over the course of a minute or two, but it launched 12 at once. And 1, that's just a cool visual effect that I liked most of the game. And 2, it felt like I'd built a strategy around that particular thing. So the mech parts, while there might be Mark II or Mark III versions of a lot of them, they tend to have trade-offs. There are exceptions. There are things. There's a very slow curve, but every step along the way with that curve, there's a range of options, and you're still choosing between, do I want the gun that can track things fast, or the arm that can track things fast, or do I want the one that's good at beam resistance, or do I want the one that's whatever? The other half of this is that more traditional linear curve does exist in this game, and it's optional, and it's a really cool thing that I actually didn't touch on in my review at all because I didn't really find the space for it. But there are cyborg modifications you make to yourself, and that is a whole skill tree. There are 3 skill trees for your head, your torso, and your legs, where you upgrade your physical human body with robot parts. And those give like flat bonuses like reload time or extra melee damage, but also some new abilities. One of the top tier ones that lets you teleport your mech like 30 feet for a big stamina cost, which is a great ability to have because sometimes you're up against a wall and you're like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Or sometimes a giant, dragon mech type thing, or I guess it's more like a bug anyway, is shooting at you. Like, I cannot be here right now. I have got to go. And being able to get that style of upgrade in this other tree was really cool. And I say it's optional, one, because it's like in a side room at your HQ that you need to like go over and run over to do it. It's not a thing that like pops up every mission. If you want to go dump money into it, you can do that. 2, because it is reminiscent to me of an old system that the Armored Core games used to have called Human Plus, which was it's like the reverse of New Game Plus. It's like, all right, so when Armored Core came out, Armored Core was a weird game and a hard game, and it was easy to lose money in that game. And in those games, if you ever went $50,000 into debt, you started with $10,000, you made money from completing missions, you lost money based on like ammunition spent, failing side objectives, collateral damage, stuff like that, you would fail the game. The game would end. But then when you started another game, they gave you a Human Plus upgrade, which was like you're a cyborg person, and so you get better cooling, you get better boosters, you get, your laser swords are stronger and stuff like that. It was like a ninja dog mode in Ninja Gaiden or something, but a little less insulting. No one called you a fucking dog. They said that you were in fact a cool enhanced human, which is a nice way of framing it. And those sorts of bonuses are what are in this like upgrade tree that lets you like eventually get cyber eyes and double jointed, legs. Which also, the other half of this thing is the reason that you have that stuff is you can get out of your mech in this game and fight on the ground. And there's like 3 or 4 missions that require you to infiltrate a facility and steal a mech or whatever that way. But mostly it's if you get shot down, you're still in the game. You can eject from your mech and continue the mission on foot using like a laser blaster. Like it's almost like a mag from Phantasy Star Online. Shout outs to the Dreamcast, by the way. Happy 20th. Or Patrick, what were those things called in Nier Automata? Like the little cube that shot? You have one of those.
Yeah.
Pods. Yeah, you have one of those in this game, basically, that can do like a charge blast or a bunch of regular blasts. And I actually beat a couple of giant, like Shadow of the Colossus-sized bosses with that. Damn. I beat the final boss like that, now that I think about it. It like wrecked my mech, and I'd almost gotten it down. I ejected and then used like the human-sized character to beat the gigantic final boss, which was cool. Which was very cool.
Is there any way to like take another mech or something, or
not?
Once you're
there's
on
no
foot,
stealing.
You're on foot?
So the thing that you can eventually unlock an ability to repair your own mech, but not once it's all the way dead.
Right.
More than one occasion, I was like, I got to get out of this fucking fight. I had like 2 or 3 partners with me. They're fighting 2 or 3 other really strong mechs. I like left to go land on a building somewhere and repair. And on one occasion specifically, the fight got a little close to me. I was like, I got to get out of here. And I just jumped off the building thinking like, oh, and I'll come back up to repair my mech. I don't know what the first thought I had on the way down was like, oh shit, I'm just a human. I can't just boost around. I can't get back up to my mech. Yeah. The second thought I had was, I just jumped off a skyscraper. I am going to die. And I absolutely did. So when you land your mech to repair it, land it in a place where you cannot fall from. That stuff is fun. In the end, this is a game that you go read the review on the site that I liked a lot. That fit a need that I had that I didn't have much faith that they would execute on after that first demo. But they fixed so many things from that demo in a way that it was really impressive. It's not what I expected from a game published by Nintendo to take notes on a beta build and like turn it around. It just felt so good to play. I still think it'll find a pretty small audience relative to like AAA Nintendo releases. But it's good to have one of these and to feel like the space could come back alive a little bit. I obviously still want a new Armored Core game. I still want Mech Souls. I still want Armored Souls so badly.
FromSoft.
I'm so fast. What are they doing? What are they doing?
I think it's a 2022 thing. It's like in my gut.
I think so many games at this point have been punted to next gen in a way that Yeah, no Elden Ring this week either.
I
so
know.
It's a 1-2.
I was
1-2 punch
so
on-
fucking sure we would get a teaser.
And that's a current gen game. Like,
Is it actually?
I feel
No, it's not.
my guess is that it's both.
Yeah,
we're gonna
it's
get a lot of
Ross.
games. That game is next fall. It is what you're gonna want to play it on next gen machines, but it'll also come out on everything else.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah, definitely.
But like not a single thing
But
on
yeah,
Elden Ring this week.
Nothing from Elden Ring. I don't think that we'll see an Armored Core game until, like, they've said, oh, we've not forgotten about the franchise. We're still working on it internally. That means something. That's a very broad phrase. Working on it internally can mean concept art.
Yeah.
It can mean having, a skunkworks team of 5 people trying out different ideas, prototyping stuff. The thing to remember about the Armored Core games is from 1 and 2 and 3 are basically very similar games. 3 to 4, big different game, like completely different in the way it feels. Even if, again, from the outside, you're like, those are the same game. 4 and 5, completely different games for me, the person who loves Armored Core. Armored Core 4, you're flying around nonstop. You have a cool particle shield around you. Armored Core 5, you're like, yo, war is hell. This machine is small and cramped, and I'm in urban environments, and I have to switch radar modes to get anything done right, and it's all team based, and is like all like even more about heat management and data management, and presumably Armored Core 6, whatever they do next with that thing, is going to be as different from 5 as 5 was from 4 as 4 was from 3.
Chrome Hounds too.
Right. Like, this is the thing. Is like Chrome Hounds is almost only as different from Armored Core 3 as Armored Core 4 is from Armored Core 3. It's a little bit further than that. That's the actual thing, Patrick, is Armored Core 5 was basically Chrome Hounds 2 with a focus on more humanoid mechs. Like, it had all of that weird shit around communications. You could have a player who was like your commander who was just seeing the map and ordering people around and giving information based on what they could see from the map. That is the type of game it was in multiplayer.
I think the hope must be that, like, From Software is just such a different studio than when they last were making those games. They are on the map in such a different way and must have access to resources in such a different way. Like, when they decide to make a game, like, they can get a check that is so much different.
Yeah.
And they're a mainstream developer these days. And so I just wonder if, like, a lot of the reason we haven't seen a new Armored Core is related to, like, what is it? Like, the easy route is what we imagine, which is just cool. Like, you can do a Souls adjacent game that also took a lot of DNA from Armored Core, and like you could see how they build that game. But I think the thing we've always been pleasantly surprised with From is their ability to sort of surprise. So I wonder if some of the lengthy lead time on this is related to just like, if you could do Armored Core all over again, do you keep it in like that box, like the smaller Armored Core community, or
go
like
back to a garage?
How do you,
right.
How do you find a way to blow it out and find a new identity for it? So I am sure they will make another one of those.
It's one of those things that's interesting because I think, given their fandom at this point, you could make it's like with each successful game that they make, they gain the sort of goodwill to do something actually still in line with Armored Core. I think you go back to Dark Souls 1 hitting, if they were like, or Dark Souls 2, that era, like if we have to put out, if we were really going to try to hit it with Armored Core, you would see them put out something that is like as mainstream as possible. But at this point, with like the buy-in that they have, I actually feel like they could do something that still feels true, quote unquote, to what I expect from Armored Core, which is about all the stuff we've been talking about around not necessarily having, I mean, honestly, it's a lot of Soul stuff, not necessarily having the direct input to execution connection that you might expect, being very interested in parallel builds instead of just linear building. All of that stuff is already in Armored Core and is in the Soul series. And so I can imagine them finding a way forward that is both really exciting, but also doesn't feel watered down for the widest possible audience. We'll see. Again, I think it'll be 2022, 2023. Like, I am not
2013. At this
yeah,
point,
dude,
like,
I know
they could start punting towards a
10-year. Honestly,
10
put those fucking games on PC. Like, the thing that I want from in the near future that would like make me so happy is put Armored Core 3, 4, and 5 and their expansions on PC. That would be incredible. Honestly, put them on backwards compatibility. Put them on. Let me download them on an Xbox One or a PS4 at this point.
They published them, so it seems like
Yeah.
in Japan anyway.
Yeah.
So it seems like they own the rights to.
Forget who published them here. Sony
Well,
may have
Age
done
Tech did a lot of them.
you're right.
Sony did a lot of them.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, that's the thing is
I
like
think Sony was involved in like the PS1 era.
that's
for sure.
that first couple they definitely did. Armored Core 2 on PS2 when it launched was like, wow, this is an incredible machine. It was like one of those games that made me feel good about having a PS2.
Published in Europe by Crave Entertainment. You remember Crave Entertainment?
Are they not around anymore? They must be. Also, it was Bandai Namco. I think
Defunct 2012, 7 years ago.
What is time? Fuck. Bandai did the last. Bandai Namco did the last Armored Core.
And I bet they would publish whatever.
Yeah.
Armored Core revival.
Yeah. Though maybe this Activision relationship continues. Who knows? We'll see. Other things that we've all been playing. Well, I don't know how much time you've put into it, but I put. Let's see. Let's check Steam real quick. I've put 4 hours into Greedfall. That's not that much time, but I did it.
I played an hour last night because I wanted to
talk about this game.
I know people told me, hey, this game is janky. And then I loaded it up and I was like, oh, you weren't fucking kidding.
Yeah.
That first tutorial fight where you're like, is my guy fucking wasted? Like, what is happening?
It's even more basic than that, where I was playing with an Xbox controller and just this, like, the speed that the camera moves along the analog stick is a very awkward, I was just not prepared. I have not played a Spider production. I know that they are, like, known for being, like,
having
janky is a sort of both a pejorative, often used as a pejorative, and also like a very like not very descriptive term, but it means like low budget but ambitious, I guess, is often what a lot of those games fall under.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I played an hour. I didn't make it to the island. I was still trying to find where my drunk friends are, I guess.
Okay. I was just going to say it's very funny that we come to this right after me being like, the thing I love about Daemon X Machina is I do things on the controller and different things than I expected happen. And I love coming to terms with that. But here, fuck it. This is bad. That's what I believe. There's one good way for a third
controlling
person.
this game.
No, I feel you.
Okay, so
Rob, go ahead. Caller, go ahead.
Completely melted my brain. There is a consistent UI issue with tutorial prompts.
Yeah.
Where it looks like it is telling you to press one button when it actually means press the other. Like the mouse button, when it was trying to teach me to parry, it shows you the outline of a mouse. And it's just a white outline. And then I want to say it was the left mouse button was blacked out and the right one was still solid white. What it's telling you to do is to press the white one, not the one that is distinguished from the rest of that outline visually. And
it's
so
like this is like a classic, like, okay, cancel, and you don't know which one your cursor is on.
It was like, parry this guy, press the left mouse button. I was like,
bro, I'm swinging my sword.
He just keeps attacking, man.
Yeah.
Like, what? Do I hold it? Do I hold it? And the guy's just like fucking leveling me. And then he's like, man, you fucking suck. Like, you are terrible. I thought I taught you to fight with swords, and you're just garbage, kid. Here, let me bring these two assholes out, and you're going to fight them until you learn what the fuck you're doing. And so
that's my favorite note on that tutorial bit is, I don't know. I'm curious if either of you got caught by this. You do the tutorial with this guy, Carl. Greedfall is a third-person action RPG. It's like trying really hard visually to, especially with the UI, to be like a successor to the Dragon Age series, but it has combat that's like a little more Witchery in some ways.
Yeah, Witcher is definitely the just like earlier Witcher, not like Witcher 2 Witcher.
The thing that I'm curious about in this tutorial is you do the tutorial with this guy Carl, who's like your bodyguard / quartermaster or whatever, and then he's like, "All right, do you got it? Do you need to go over the basics again?" And I was like,
I don't got it, Carl.
Did you say you don't got it? Did you both say you don't got it? Because I said I don't got it, and I expected to just get that tutorial again, and he was like, "All right then. Now here's how guns work." And I was like, What if I had said I got it? Were you going to send me out into the world without teaching me how fucking guns work? If I had said, yeah, I understand swords, you were just going to be like, oh, all right, bye. Have fun. What? I'm sorry, Rob. Continue. Those two guys came out and kicked your ass.
No, because then they just sort of stand there around, wait for you to like patiently like gun them down. It's a bit like oh gosh, I want to say in like King of the Hill when Hank tries to take Bobby out to shoot a deer, and they go like he's so bad at hunting that they end up going to like the rich suburban dad hunting ground where like you just sit up in a stand and the feeder comes and like the trusting deer walk up and get killed. That's basically like those deer are your training enemies in this game, but it doesn't really even matter that much because the combat is also just like seems really simplistic to the point where I don't think I'm playing well. I just don't think it matters. Like, I
whack.
Yeah. Just shoot a guy and then whack him a few times and then shoot his friend and, stab her a few times and you're done.
I don't even know in this opening section. That first like fight I got into with some random people on the street.
Oh my God.
I don't even know why I was fighting them.
Yeah,
who am I killing? Why am I beating
palace.
the shit out of these people?
You step out of the palace and instantly are fighting some randos in shawls and capes.
Like, why?
They're dead now.
Who are
I
they?
just killed 3 people. They're just dead in the streets. There's already a plague. But actually, you know what? Maybe there isn't a plague. Maybe it's just me walking around town and killing people. I don't know. I think the reason that this game... There's a lot to talk about here.
There's a reason the 3 of us decided to try and start playing a game that probably in any other scenario we would have just been like...
I probably would have dipped my toes in it. I am hard up for this style of RPG, or at least I thought I was based on the type of thing it is. I like BioWare games. This in UI, in presentation, in the fact that it's doing like shot, reverse shot, dialogue option type stuff. There's actually not as many dialogue options as you might think. Was like, oh wow, maybe this will fill the void of another Dragon Age, another Mass Effect.
Well, they've been pitching themselves that way too. This game has been like explicitly sort of like targeting like, hey, BioWare isn't BioWare anymore. Like the next Dragon Age is 3 years away.
Question mark at this point.
And who knows what that game even is? And Anthem was a big wet turd, and and so they've been like, I think a lot of people are desperate for that type of game or anything that even suggests that it could be in the ballpark.
Right.
And this game has been getting like pretty decent like write-ups in the lead up. Like there's been a lot of like, okay, so even if you don't like previous Spider games, like this one seems like they're kind of coming along. Like it's easy also to forget CD Projekt Red, when the original Witcher shipped, most people played The Witcher 1 when they played something called the Definitive Edition, which was like a year of patching later. That game was like not unplayable, but like also not out of the ballpark of unplayable when it shipped. And they really did a lot of work to get it better. Witcher 2 was like a big leap forward. And Witcher 3's combat, which I still think is pretty trash, was it like it even itself like more of a leap forward? Which is all to say, I think there's been some thought that Spider has been a studio progressing in a similar arc where it's like their storytelling ambitions don't match their ability to deliver on mechanics, and that Greedfall might have been an instance where they were making kind of a Witcher 2 leap where it's like, like, all right, they're getting better at like melding all of these things together. And then also we should mention, and we'll get there because, this is like, this game is explicitly saying, hey, it's a game about colonizing, in which you are a colonizer and we're going to ask questions about that. So like that's immediately like for like if there's like someone that got like run around with like an alarm bell for Waypoint, it's like it's a game about colonizing. Ding 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 ding.
So I've seen more of that stuff than you have probably, because I'm a little bit further in, and
I've only seen like the opening hour is you getting ready to go on a ship, and you're doing some small side quests to like kind of set up how the mechanics of the game work and the storytelling works. But the hints of it are that like, oh, like, hey, you're going to an island. By the way, there's some natives there, and like they're a little unruly, and they don't want to speak our language. But don't worry, we're going to convert them to quote Christianity or whatever the equivalent is here. And that's a little bit of the setup that I've seen. I have not actually seen any of that stuff in practice.
Rob, You were doing not shaking your head, but you were like, equivocating with your head.
Well, so the thing that I like so far is that there's a little more dimensionality than I was expecting to this. Like the fact there is one faction that is hellbent on converting the people of Tearfully, which is, I don't know what's going on with that. It's such a strange. It's an odd name. I don't hate it, but it's just it sounds so sing song.
It's very clearly supposed to be like Celtic, right? Like T-I-R versus they spell it T-E-E-R.
Yeah,
not
right,
T-E-E-E.
right.
T-E-E-R. I said that right the first time. But that style of like Celtic, like it is. When I asked them about this at a preview event a little while ago, like. So the first thing you need to know is this is about European colonization. This is about the ways in which Europe was colonized by other European powers, as in a way that was like, and that should put to bed any questions you have about the way we're representing natives or colonization. And it is about that, and that is a real fucking thing. Like, go talk to people from Ireland about the history of colonization and oppression in that country. Like that happened. All across, go talk to parts of Spain who had their cultures completely stamped out by the Spanish royal powers. Like this happens a lot.
Yeah, but the natives are coded as
they're coded like a mix. They really are.
Yeah,
so I'm 4 hours in, right?
Okay.
Like
it's just like in the I haven't seen a lot of it. So
we'll get to it. I think.
Yeah.
To Rob's point, like I also came in expecting. I'd say before the first preview event I saw, I came in expecting here is fantasy Europe, and it's going to the fantasy New World, and there is one culture on each side of those things, and they're going to come to a clash, and you will pick through whatever the conflict is, and you will be a peacemaker or a troublemaker, because video games and choices are a thing that everyone thinks is just good on its face, and that is the only way to do it. In fact, the opening hour or two set up that, or it kind of depends on how much time you want to spend in that opening area, set up the fact that the old world, quote unquote, the fantasy Europe is already divided and fighting among themselves, right? There is your group, the Congregation, which are a merchant group. They're kind of neutral and they kind of want to like remain out of kind of war and politics on the continent. There is a group, I forget what the name of the religious faction is. Thalim, who are like fantasy Catholics. Who are religiously motivated. It is the primary faith in the world. They want to go to the new world and convert as many people as they can. They want to bring faith to this new world. And then there is I remember the name of the city is Al Sahad, but do you remember the name of the other? The
Bridge Alliance.
The Bridge Alliance, right? Which is a collection of nations that's definitely been Arab coded so far. Arab and Persian and Middle Eastern coded so far. And that is a group that is all about science. That is a culture that is all about cultural exchange. And those are the ones who are most actively at war with the native groups on the island that you're going on Tier 4D. They do the thing immediately that video games do, that BioWare games certainly do, that we talked about recently with Fallout games and with what is the Outer Worlds? The idea of like, but all sides have bad people in them. There's a quest early on, basically to go kind of corral some heretics for the church, and a quest for the Science-y Bridge Alliance faction to run a supposed charlatan out of town. And of course, it turns out the heretics aren't heretics, and the charlatan isn't quite a charlatan. And wait a second, maybe these groups don't have like the best intentions in mind. Maybe they're both sort of corrupt, and they both have issues with bureaucracy or with political power or with trying to keep the status quo in line and blah blah blah. And I was like, okay. In fact, I was like, at that point, I was like, I would take a whole game set in this world where they're developing the Bridge Alliance, Themele, and the merchant collective, whatever they're called.
Congregation,
yeah. And specifically, the other half of this is like another game published by Focus Home Interactive this year. This game takes place in the middle of a big plague. The premise of the game starting position is this thing called the Malachor spreading through fantasy Europe and is killing a bunch of people, including your mother, who's very sick at the start of the game.
Game opens with just your mom being like, bye. Like, maybe you'll find a cure. And the son is like, well, but I won't get it back in time for you. And she's like, yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See ya.
See ya. I look real rough, don't I? Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a pleasant affliction.
No, not at all. And so that is the thing. You're going to the New World partially because your cousin is going to be the governor, the quote unquote. They actually don't call it the New World. They there's this island to find a potential cure. And because your cousin is going to be the governor of the congregation settlement there, New Serene, and because you're going to be the legate who is, a peacekeeper, a fixer, a person who's going to be a dealer of justice and someone who can arbitrate and handle complex situations.
Be a main character.
Go be a main character. And so after dealing with stuff back at home, you end up going to this island. And there's a little bit of that same differentiation. And at first I was like, okay, this is cool. So there are more than one native faction on this island. You learn pretty quickly. There are a number of different cultures and tribes there. I'm like, all right. So they didn't immediately fall into the trap of there just being quote unquote natives on the island. And that is all of the culture. I met someone pretty early on who was like, actually, my crew wants these people to show up. We trade with them. We are outcast from the rest of native culture because we actually kind of are interested in figuring out a way to do cultural exchange. We think we can keep the high ground. And other people were like, nah, these people suck, dog. And you get tossed into the middle of that stuff. But one, you absolutely do gain, while you gain reputation with the Bridge Alliance and the Merchant Congregation and the whatever of Teleme, you also just get reputation with quote unquote natives. So even though narratively it splits up these groups into different tribes and cultures, mechanically you are either liked or not liked by quote unquote natives. And it's also just rushed in a real big way. You get there and in the time it takes between, think about Mass Effect or Dragon Age. Think about the first 5 hours of that game, of either of those games, and how long it takes you to slowly amass party members. Where you play through the intro on Eden Prime and Mass Effect. You go to the Citadel, not the Citadel. Is that what it's called? The Citadel. You recruit Garrus. You recruit Rex. You get Tali, bit by bit over the course of a few hours. Then you go off to a whole nother planet and you get Liara. And by hour 6 or 7 that you have a full crew. Mm-hmm. In this game, in a 30-minute section, it was like, all right, I got my main guy. Then from the time I left to the time I got to the governor's mansion, it's like, all right, I got 2 more people. I got the dude who fucking drove the boat here. You drive a boat, right? The guy who drove the boat here, and a native woman who was just on the governor's doorstep being like, I want to talk to the governor.
Just ready to help.
And I was like, you're in my party now. You're going to be my healer. All right, cool. Forever. You want to go solve a mystery with some dead merchants? Is that not what you signed up for? You just wanted to talk to my cousin? Too bad. Listen, there's an arena fight we have to go do first. You're good with that, right? I promise I'm going to let you talk to my cousin at some point. But first,
he's only 2 squares away.
Yeah, he's right there. He's on the... Trust me, guys. There's a great pub just 2 squares away. My cousin is there. He's holding court. God. This one's closed? Okay, well, and at that point, it started to peel away. Or I think that this game has incredible art direction. It has just the lighting in this game is fantastic. There are alleyways that are represented with this kind of flooding, backlit, mist-filled, wow, the world, even though there's not much of it, right? This is Spiders is out here doing a lot with a little visually. Skyboxes that are just breathtaking, a real sense of the place in the world. But every time I pick at it a little bit more of it kind of falls away. And I mean that both in terms of that narrative. And again, I'm only 4 hours in. I'm gonna probably put some more time into it. I am curious, even though now that I've gotten to the bulk of the game and I'm like running around nature killing 30 different wolves, I'm like, this is one of these.
Gotta get those pelts.
Yeah. I'm not even trying to get these pelts, Patrick. I'm trying to get to a place, and there's 30 wolves between me and that place. And
so they must die.
And colonization be like that sometimes. Sometimes you just have to exert your will on nature and make it yours. And let it know what organization looks like and what culture looks like, Patrick. And so
what are those wolves dropping?
I got bile from one of the wolves, and I feel like I would have.
Okay.
Austin, if I ever had to kill,
is there an
wolf,
animation for that? Do you get to see your main character like shove its hand in this wolf's throat and collect it? in the bottle?
There's an animation. It's the UI from Dragon Age Inquisition shows up, and then you hit X to collect the bile. I would leave bile on a wolf every time. Maybe I take the pelt. I can probably take a cool bone, make a fang necklace or something.
What are the uses for wolf bile, though?
I don't know. Oh, you know what? I'm not an alchemist.
It's probably potion mixing, right? There's like a huge
there's a
tree
huge skill tree in this.
Some
game.
of you have never balanced your humors before.
There was a really cool skill tree. There was some what skill did you put your points into? What talent? Not like fighting stuff, but like the moving around the world.
I did conversation immediately.
Like charisma or intuition.
Yeah.
So here's the thing that I like. There's charisma, which just gives you... Charisma pops up all the time. Charisma is a thing that's like...
That's just great. That's just basically greater chance for an option. That's the one I picked.
Yeah, there's also intuition, which presents different dialogue options, and I'm going down that tree. And that's the one where you're Sherlock Holmes. That's the one where you're like, aha, but the door is ajar, isn't it? And the guy's like, the door is ajar, which means there was a second person here. And you make someone feel like a fucking fool. And there's no dice roll. It just doesn't show up as often to get you a better, which is
so
neat.
there's an early sequence where you're trying to out this potion maker that you think is like scamming people. And so there's a sequence where you show him that he's a scammer, and then you learn the real story with what's going on with him, and then you're given an option to try and help him escape the city. And you can either do that like disguises, or like a big part of this game. I haven't gotten to that part of it, but like you can put on disguises to like infiltrate different factions and like put characters in different sort of costuming, and the world reflects that. So I guess you can either find a costume for this person to sneak out, or I approached the crowd that was very angry at him because of me, because I made them angry. And I did get an intuition option. It was like literally like a one, like I have one, and like you need greater than one for this option. And it was then to convince the crowd that actually, if you don't leave here, like that potion he sold you is going to give you paralysis, so you need to go lay down.
Yeah.
And then the crowd of two went away.
Yeah, that stuff is cool. There is like a lot of there's like a bunch of that style of alternate options for solving quests based on what skill set you have. Do you have science? And if so, can you craft a thing that blows a hole in the wall so that you can get in through a basement instead of having to pick the front door's lock?
See, that's cool as hell. I miss a game like that, which is like I immediately understand the appeal of a Greedfall, like absent everything else, which is just like an RPG with options that has like a nice big art budget is... Like there's weirdly not that many of those, despite the fact that I have a million games to play right now.
The thing that I keep coming back to though is, and I think it's caught up in that idea of there are many solutions to every problem. Is that conversation around Outer Worlds and around New Vegas and around obviously if the quest is I need to break into this shipping warehouse to change the manifest so I can sneak some extra cargo on this vessel. That's one thing. But it's that same thought pattern of like, we want to give the player as many options as possible to solve the quest that allows you to finish a quest in which you decide like, you know what? Fuck the heretics. They didn't do shit, but fuck them. Or let you lean into being the colonizer, dismissing the concerns of the native dude who is being harassed. And there is something about that style of play. I mean, I think actually Heather Alexandra over on Kotaku wrote up a piece about this. She's a little bit further in. She's like 10 hours in. But the thing that is so fascinating is where it allows you. It gives you all these options to change things. Do you want to blow a hole in the wall? Do you want to balance beam your way across because you took vigor or vitality or whatever? Do you want to sweet talk your way in? What do you want to do to get to the place? What do you want to do to get to the thing? But then it's like, okay, either here's a binary yes or no option, or here are the times that you don't get to do shit. And there's a specific thing that in her review she calls out that I've seen a bit of so far. She says, I've yet to see the moments of awareness that the game shows coalesce into anything actionable. I could butt heads with the racist church official and state my disbelief in his God, but I couldn't intercede as he choked a quote-unquote sinner to death. And it's like, it is calling its shots. It is choosing its moments for when and where it does let you decide to be the guardrail on morality, right? There are things that it's just like, and then this is just a true thing about the world. I think it's a game that wants to say something about colonization. Again, I'm 4 hours in, but it seems like it's like, yes, you're going to be the thing. You're going to be the force of good in this culture. But to do that, it's choosing to keep you from interceding at certain places, or else deeply limiting your available lexicon for interactivity and where and when you can do it. So it's kind of giving me the worst of both worlds. It's both saying, yes, you have as many options available to you as you will. You can talk your way out of racism. You simply need to, have a high charisma score to convince the head of the merchants in this town to let in a native guy to sell his wares. But also it's saying, but listen, this is systemic. This is bigger than you. You can't actually do anything here. Some of this stuff is just a cutscene, bro. You don't get to hit the X button and save the day. And it's not quite threading that. Like, there might be a way to do that, but I haven't seen it do that yet in a way that makes me confident about the rest of this game. There's one thing that happened actually in the demo that I had a couple months ago of this game that actually felt right. And I want to see if they do more of that. And that was a moment where there were some Bridge Alliance scientists who'd gone missing and who were ended up, of course, having been killed by some native folks who were like, y'all shouldn't be here. Get out of here. And there was a confrontation between one of the remaining scientists in this group and the natives who had killed the other ones. And my dialogue options at that point were like, charisma, try to talk them down. Like, bribe them to not hurt this person. Say, like, fuck it, you can kill this person. Or, because I had her in my party, have the one native character in my party speak for me. And I was like, you know what? Cerisi, you go talk to this person. I'm not, in my mind, I was like, I'm not from here. What do you think about this? And she was like, excuse me, I don't know these guys. We're not from the same tribe. What they do is their business. In fact, we disagree about the whole big picture thing. And not only did they I think that they killed that bridge, or they, combat started right after that. They didn't kill that person, but combat started right after that. And afterwards, I lost reputation with my native party member because I was trying to use her nativeness to get me out of trouble, which is interesting. Okay, there was some very interesting thought going into that conversation, or into that moment. But I'm also I think the bigger question for me is what. You know what it reminds me of, Rob? And you talked with Dia at great length about this during the Tomb Raider process, but it's hard to imagine a version of this game that is so good that it feels comfortable for me to play in regardless of the execution. You know what I mean? In the same way that Shadow of the Tomb Raider was that one. In the same way that the core premise is so frustrating and is so charged that it's hard to imagine what that execution looks like that is not just uncomfortable, but is not hitting landmines. It's hard for me to understand or conceive of the game in which I am playing a colonizer. That is what you are. There is no doubt about it. Even the game that is about the colonizer throwing off the title of colonizer. Even the person who's I'm an outsider here, but I'm here to work with the insiders. I I don't want to play The Last Samurai. Like, I don't. There was a time when I did, but that's mostly because it had samurai in it. In the same way that, like, there was a time when I would have loved this game. 10 years ago, I'm like, yo, there's natives in this game. But I think my bar has been
in your party.
Right, you would have one of them in your party. Wow, I could like
They don't want to be in the party anymore, but yo, you're here, so we're family.
I actually think that this game does have that thing of like, oh, your party can turn on you if you make certain choices, and there are ways that I think that they could handle that do feel meaningful. Like honestly, especially if it's not about big shit. Like if there is a moment where someone leaves my party just because they're like, wait a second, I'm a colonizer, like, but Black Dynamite, we sell drugs in the community. If there's that style of moment, but we're here to colonize these people about something small, that would actually feel great if they left my fucking party. That would help communicate the idea of like, yeah, I'm here to do a good thing. But I don't know, but like there's so much caught up in the premise and in the allowance of.
Well, and the premise is always, it seems, taken from the same angle. It's always you, the outsider, coming in, being the dominant figure,
yes.
like in which the premise that it's taking, the world text that it's building on, it is always approached from, it is Lara Croft going into these places. Right. It is you, the like rich oligarch coming in to these places. Like the angle at which it approaches like an already fraught text is always from the exact same place. So no matter how woke it wants to be, no matter how many choices it wants to present on a spectrum, and even these games that offer choices seems like them box themselves in by, what is it that the Outer Worlds quote is always like, well, but like, yeah, of course this game is politics. Like we want to represent like all the potential politics through all these different options. I'm paraphrasing.
That was also the Ubisoft blog post.
Right? Yeah. Like but I can think like games with choices like then allow themselves an out through that like creates its own set of problems. But it does seem like it's consistent with a lot of these games are like and Cado, maybe this is a chance for you to touch on Monster Hunter, like. Because like that's a game.
And that game doesn't even give you any choices at all here, right? Like that is the opposite in some ways.
No, but
right?
But sound like when we had talked about it on Monday, you were we're still earlier in the campaign, so I'm curious if like where that game's conversation on like its approach to like the othering and like you dominating like a quote unquote native land, like where does that go in the story from where we touched on it Monday?
I mean, it just continues to go down the path of we're here and this is our home now. Doesn't matter whether or not we were not here like a day ago. We're gonna hunt down a natural creature. Like it was one thing when we defended the base from the ice dragon, and then another yet when we were like, okay, it's hurt, let's hunt it down to its nest and kill it, make sure it never comes back again.
God.
Yeah, it just keeps.
Jesus.
Yep, exactly. It keeps on upping the ante. Like every time I think like, okay, like this is probably the worst it gets. It like adds another layer of like, nah, we're really doing the thing this time. Like we are straight up, we are colonizing this space. Like fuck it, we're using all the natural resources we can. We are making a new home for ourselves here. And we are going to fight for that home, even if that means going out of our way to kill things when they're not really bothering us anymore. Yeah, I don't know. My brain is a little fried on that game just because it's also long as hell.
Yeah, I've heard that it's like as long as...
It has... So the original base game has 25 quests.
Yeah.
2 of those are killing small, tiny monsters. This game has 24 quests, and they're all big monster quests.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a ton.
Are those all unique monsters?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think one of them... No, well, actually, 3 of them are the same ice dragon. You fight it multiple times.
Okay.
But the rest of those, the other 20 whatever, I can math.
And it still has the same... So, I wrote a review. It was the first review on the site, technically, which is a weird thing that we noticed today because we have a review template. We have like a Photoshop file that has the review stuff in it, and the default image that's in there is Monster Hunter World.
Is the Monster Hunter?
Because that's the first review that we ran. Even though now retroactively we went back and added that tag to a bunch of other shit.
Yeah,
it was basically reviews.
We finally formalized that we're doing quote unquote.
Did I ever explain why we didn't do reviews at launch on this podcast?
I feel like we talked about that when we did the Monster Hunter.
But I mean the real reason, not the reason that we came up with. we didn't have reviews at launch. Look, okay, what I will say is I came up with the strategy around not having reviews at launch. We didn't have reviews at launch because Joel Fowler told a media outlet that one of the ways that Vice Games was going to separate itself from other games outlets was by not having reviews. This is before I was in my role. I was like, well, I guess he said that to Variety or whoever. So, all right. You know what? Yeah.
Which fit with our ethos
100%,
anyway.
100%.
But that's extreme. That's such a specific thing for him to say.
Left out scored, Joel. You left out scored.
Yeah. It definitely reflected a conversation he and I had that was basically that, where I was like, I don't know that we need scored reviews, you know? I also remember this is a different era. This is 2016. This is the summer of 2016. We're all high on the world of games media has changed. You know what? Gamergate was 2 years ago. It was terrible, but we're moving into a new age. We have all felt the scars of that. We've come closer together, and it's time for new experimental to take on games journalism. Games journalism can be bigger, guys. It doesn't have to be daily news blogs. It doesn't have to be, etc. I almost said TK, which is journo speak, which is very funny. But yeah, so Monster Hunter World ends up being our first review, and technically, and in it, I'm like, colonialism, the exploitation of natural resources. And at the time, a lot of the response, and this is the thing I'm curious about, a lot of the response was like, yeah, but you're an ecological venture. Oh, you're here to see nature. You could capture the animals.
Yeah.
You don't need to kill them all.
Yeah, that was always the thing. Like, you could capture them. And then put them in an arena and kill them there.
You don't have to do those arena quests.
Even Cado.
You're making the choice to go into it.
Even Cado. I read your review of this game, dog. So my question is, my obviously rhetorical question, because I read your fucking review already, is how's it do with this stuff this time?
Bad. Because the fucking first game, right? It was like, this is the only way we can investigate these things is by observing them in nature, by you fighting them, and then also capturing them, and then we can learn more about them. And they call it
love to observe with an axe to the face. I gotta observe the shit out of this lizard.
This time, it's not that. It is you're arriving. Oh, this looks like a good spot for a new base. Yo, there's that monster there. If that monster's too close, we can't build this new base. Go get it. It's investigations out the fucking window the jump.
Listen, man. All that shit happened already at the old base. You just weren't there for it.
You weren't there for it, obviously. Like, it's
Wash
just like
your hands.
I get it. It's just like the narrative specifically being told at this moment is even more blatant. Yeah.
And recurring, it sounds like. It's everything.
It's everything. Every single thing is like, oh, we need a new trade route to get more stuff to the new base. There's this thing in the way. Oh, That's the thing. Like, there's like a couple. There's two in there that are like
monetize the rotten Vale. God,
that's fucking title.
And it only even beyond the colonialist aspect, it's like it's the gross part about Monster Hunter that you have to like put out of your brain is like, you know, that moment where it starts limping off, and it's like cool, like that's probably enough.
Yeah.
Like it's like it's good.
Right.
Like we scared it away. Like it's not in the spot anymore. It's close to death, but like it'll be okay. Like these are giant creatures; they can recover. Like I've seen Godzilla do this. Like it's good.
True.
Like we scared it off.
Godzilla.
Can't that just be enough? Why do we need to then rip and tear its body down to essential parts so we could create
13 times
an Anjanath type B?
Those Anjanaths
armor.
go to the base and they're sleeping in that one corner. You see them sleeping, and then we let them out. Right?
You let them out afterwards. You go back, Anjanath. We certainly haven't ruined your ecosystem. Have fun.
God.
You know what has some Monster Hunter in it real quick?
Huh.
Daemon X Machina.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's giant robots. I sent a video of one of those fights to the chat last week, and I was like, yo.
Yeah.
And you can grind those to get blueprints and to
Wow.
get rare drops that then let you build rare parts.
I thought
yeah.
you were gonna say giant dinosaurs.
I wish
was
they should put the fucking Dinobots in Daemon X Machina. Let me fight giant robot dinosaurs. Anyway, it's a bummer that they didn't address this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly never expected it, but it at least on its face now is like this is what this is.
They went in the other direction.
Yeah, it's like, yo,
I mean,
this
they
is
did
what,
address it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not, on some level they did.
Yes.
Like they make the like the implication of Monster Hunter World like
Right.
the action of Iceborne.
Yeah.
And so like you're almost like you like in the way that like, you know, we were joking about before, like you can just sort of like, well, I know this horrible stuff happened before I got here, but again, before I got
Right.
here. And whereas Iceborne is like, you are those people doing those actions. So on some level, it's like more truthful about its premise, but without the follow-up.
Yeah,
It's like,
there's
right,
no-
what you're doing is pretty terrible and doesn't seem justified at all. Even though this is a fantasy game where you could come up with literally, give me a dark curse, something, give me some bullshit game. Like
There's an honesty.
Well, the
not
elder
usually-
dragons are so powerful that they can cause ecosystems to change. You know,
Right.
Like, you know,
Like animals do.
yeah,
Got you.
like the way a tornado
No, like,
passes through and you can fight it.
There is the thing that's so funny to me is like when I actually think about my own Ooh, we could go down a whole other branch of this conversation given the events of this week. There is
don't have enough intuition.
there's a branch of contemporary ecological theory that is really effective at approaching this issue. And there's a quote from your review in which you say that there's a moment like this where someone says, but wait a second, we could ruin everything. And the guy's response is like, we are also part of nature, basically.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is, I actually think that that is true. I think that like the binary between nature and civilization is bullshit, and that like civilization is humans are part of nature, and that we kind of do our hand washing when we pretend that we are not that.
Sure.
And there is an entire branch of contemporary theory and philosophy and ecological study looking at this question, right? Like a lot of people have written about the Anthropocene. A lot of people have written about, you know, if you look at like dark ecology and stuff like that, that stuff is out there, and it tackles that in a way that does not ignore ecological damage. It does not ignore us as actors,
Right.
but neither does it center us as the only actor or pretend that humans are not animals or pretend that there is not civilization inside of nature already. Right. And there's ways to do that. But the way that is like the celebratory, like, aha, we're nihilists. It's all fucking nature anyway, baby. Burn it down.
Yeah.
Is not the way that's going to compel me to be excited about killing my 30th Anjanath. And maybe that's okay. Like, it's not okay, but it's like,
Yeah.
you're welcome to cognitive dissonance. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
for
Like
sure.
welcome to any video game I play. Welcome to any movie I see, which doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it, but does mean that like I heard that you could grapple on dinosaurs now.
Yeah, it's good.
Good.
You punch them in the face and they turn around. Like you can make them do a little
You
spin.
make them like dizzy?
You-
Or do you mean you hit them so hard they go like woo
Oh,
and
they
then
like
fall?
they turn 90 degrees, and then
Okay.
you do a second move
Ooh.
that like creates an explosion that makes them run straight forward for some reason. I don't know why that's their reaction. And if there's a wall there, they hit it and fall over.
Damn.
So
And then you can cut their tail off.
and then yeah, you can cut their tail off.
Damn. Brutal. Remember when I cut fucking Nergigante's tail off?
Yo.
That was fucking sick.
Yeah. God, just take all of those. Just
Yeah. But I don't know
like
that there's a way.
imagine-
Again, I don't know that there's a way to unpick this that
No,
at
I
this
don't think there
point
is, really.
doesn't feel like rationalization.
right.
Right? Like the game is You're going to an environment. Maybe there is. Maybe it's just about like setting it.
There could be a reframing about what you are in the space.
Yeah.
Like you're a newcomer.
Yeah,
that's
but mechanically, you're killing an infinite number of creatures who never stop coming, so that you can get better gear. Right.
Right. That's the part that I never enjoyed. Anyways, was the repeat missions. Like I only fought these monsters once. I doubled up once because I was missing a single piece of something, but I tried my best not to because it is kind of boring.
It's kind of boring.
You know, like, I mean, I get it. I get how you do it. How like, I mean, I fucking replay the same goddamn Destiny Strike a million times because I want a thing.
Right.
But in this case, that never called to me in a way that, like, I could see this, like, a lot of these same mechanics existing in like I don't know, like a Souls game or something, right?
Yeah.
The boss scale feels similar to that, and like you frame it in a completely different way. Maybe you can kind of, without the repetition part, like, because that's part where the numbers go up. I could care less about that personally.
Right.
Like, for me, it's like,
I know, but talk to like a lot like hardcore Monster Hunter
That's the
fans,
thing.
and they're going to tell you like that you're breaking what is exactly what they like.
I
about
like the
game.
fact that the charge blade goes chunk really good when I put the fucking sword into the
Or you put
shield.
the vials in there. Yeah, totally. That
Get
thing
those vials in.
goes chunk.
Yeah.
It feels good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Like, I could care less that the number went up because I killed a bunch of the other thing and put the bones into this one. Like,
Man, welcome to me and Destiny, Cado.
Hey, you know, that's fair. Destiny's
Power
good.
levels?
No, here's the
Okay.
thing. Here's the thing about that, though, is that I
all right.
also hate.
Let him make the case. Let him make the case.
I also do not. I haven't played Destiny a lot this summer because there's a content lull. I did the raid the day it came out.
Sure.
Which they set at the lower end of the level cap.
Oh.
And now, personally, I don't give a fuck about the level cap. I only ever cared because it allowed me to do the raid. So, like, yeah, if they, like, second, like, expansion out, we're like, we're just gonna get rid of gear level.
You'd
It's
be fine
about,
with that,
I'd be
right.
like, that's
Aren't they
great.
sort of not getting rid of it by any means because it's still there for the? But aren't they doing the thing where if I just started playing when Shadowkeep comes out, are they doing some sort of like equalization of level stuff?
There's a level boost.
Okay.
So you will be at the current cap.
Okay, that's not
But
what
that's
I
not
mean.
the new cap.
The thing that I'm talking about is, aren't they making it so that it's almost like a hub and spoke style, instead of like the linear campaign, I could jump into a mission with my higher level friends right away?
You could always do that.
Okay.
The thing that is
Would I be
changing
effective,
is
though?
Campaign stuff has very rarely
Been
level dependent.
okay. It's not like
Sometimes
Fallout style
there
leveling,
are.
though.
Sometimes there are, but it has to be like, it's like a really big. It's usually a pretty deep like level difference.
Okay.
What is happening now is just basically that the free to play stuff contains content that other players are repeating.
Right.
The things like Strikes and Nightfalls.
So you'll be able
Crucible.
to get a high level group with that stuff.
Yeah,
even
you
as a
can hop
free-to-play
into any
player.
of those stuff even if you haven't paid for the expansion.
Gotcha.
Basically. Yeah,
Destiny.
I don't know. Destiny.
When's
Destiny
that out? October?
October 1st.
Soon.
That's
That's soon.
I'm excited because Destiny. I want more Destiny always, but
I'm so curious about this expansion. Like,
Yeah.
for real am. I keep meaning to reinstall it on PC.
yeah,
Because I bet that red tree just looks great.
it's a good tree.
I haven't seen it on this new PC yet. I only saw it on the old PC. And I bet it looks better on this new PC. We should take a break. We've talked about Monster Hunter. Unless are there any other games that people want to shout out briefly? I dipped my toes in Stellaris. It was cool. Still a good game. I still like that game.
I'm playing Link's Awakening. We'll talk about it on Monday
Okay.
when I've had more time to spend it. It's beautiful. It still has
Can I ask how?
still has performance issues.
Does
It
it?
does? Shit.
Really? Fuck.
Yep.
God damn.
Yep. Not. It's not gonna
Stop me from playing this game.
like
Nah, me either.
won't stop you playing a game, but it is the kind of thing where you're like, really, like not the kind of thing you expect. You expect like this game doesn't seem like it should be like visually taxing, but then there are moments where you're in the open world, like in the dungeons, it's fine.
Okay.
But then you'll be in the open world, and there are times where it's just like, yeah, I can see the frame
Is that
rate,
it?
and that's
Docs 2?
Both.
fuck.
Both. It's probably actually less noticeable in handheld because
smaller screen.
it's a smaller screen. But it doesn't. I've been largely trying to play it in docked because it's such a gorgeous looking game that I wanted to see it on a big screen, and it's still got some hiccups. That there's nothing on the screen that suggests it's like anything to do with like the Switch hardware. It's just for whatever reason it's having issues. So not E3 level, but definitely it's not like a smooth 60 FPS or anything.
I'm
like that.
excited for that.
I'm so excited for it. Yeah, definitely. All right.
Best.
One small thing. Hold on. There's one small thing I wanted to point out before we pivot off of games we've been playing. Is so this morning, I downloaded Divinity Original Sin 2 on my Switch, and because I wanted to see how that performed, and didn't get far enough to answer that question because so I'm going through the character creation screen. And you have like two options. You can choose from like a bunch of set characters in the game, or you can create your own character. If you create your own character, though, you don't get an origin story. Like there's like a bunch of prefab stuff that doesn't come along with that. But if you want to make your own thing and come up with your own backstory in your mind, you can do that. And so, like I'm scrolling through like the prefab characters, and they got names and backstories.
You've not played this game before, right?
Okay. No, I played Original Sin 1, but I've not played Original Sin 2. And it's like, it's like a lizard who got in a scrap with a demon. It's like, like a wizard, and here's like someone who was enslaved, and now they're an assassin that's out to like get the person that wronged them. It's like, okay, yeah. And then I scroll to Fane. And Fane is, imagine like Aquaman's outfit from the Aquaman movie, including a trident, but a skeleton.
Yeah.
What? Just a skeleton. Origin, Fane. You woke up and your world was gone. The last of your kind. You hide behind a charmed mask, searching for the truth about a history that no one existed. He is undead, and to traverse around the world of Divinity, to not scare all the humans, he has a spell that tears off the flesh of others and puts it on him so that he can have the appearance of a human.
Not only a human, which is the weird thing. He could be an elf. I think he can be non-humanoid. I think he can be like a lizard or a dwarf or whatever even. I don't know how his bones do that. I guess it's magic.
And he doesn't heal. Healing potions hurt him. Poison heals him.
Good.
It is a delight.
Also,
I didn't even look through the other characters. I hit yes,
that's
please.
also what I
I
did.
will be Fane.
He also starts with a lockpick because his fingers are like a skeleton key. He has like literally an unbreakable lockpick for level 1 locks from the start of the game. Also, a very funny voice actor. He's good.
Yeah, when I tweeted out Fane, everyone was like, "Yes, you've chosen wisely." I will not get a chance to play this game for a couple of months, but I wanted to at least I just wanted to look at it, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, I know what I'll be doing in November when things slow down."
Will they?
Fane is it's enough for me that I'll be able to start putting some time into it. Yeah, I beat Fire Emblem, man. I'm good. Fire Emblem, Control, both gone.
Damn. Did you already talk about beating Fire Emblem? Did you beat that last week?
So on Monday I was up to the last fight, and then I did the last fight since then, which was like the first last fight straight up. Everyone down. Last hit is what took out the final boss. It was like really poignant and beautiful. It was like the first time I had that experience.
Wait, you lose characters?
Well, I mean, I'm playing casual. So
okay.
They retreated from battle.
Gotcha.
Because I got impatient in the final fight, and I didn't want to just sit and bait out enemies for an hour and a half. I was just like, let's just go and let's just hopefully we'll hope for the best. We should do it. I already explained my disappointment over some of the storytelling choices in that game, but we should get into more in detail in a spoiler cast when Rob. Hopefully, if Rob gets a chance to finish that off sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Sounds good. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back to talk about some news and some other stuff. I got two fresh news stories here.
Hot off the presses.
Hot off the presses. Did you hear that first one? PewDiePie is donating $50,000 to the Anti-Defamation League. I got a second news story here. No, he isn't. The internet was mad at him. His fans were mad. He's not doing that anymore.
Well,
just love to live on the internet.
So there was So PewDiePie is having a moment, as he does.
he is wont to do.
So the thing, every fucking time it happens, right? So, oh God, how do you even talk about PewDiePie? There was a moment, I'm going to say 2015. I remember having this conversation with Vinny. I was still a Giant Bomb at the time. I was like, you know what? I think maybe people give PewDiePie a hard time. And this was there was a moment where I think in our kind of cohort of game critics, where we were having kind of a come to Jesus moment with YouTubers. We were kind of being like, you know what? Maybe a lot of our dismissal has been unfounded.
I never bought this shit at all.
Okay.
It fucking baffled me that people were trying to get so with the kids that they were looking past what dudes like that were putting out.
Well, okay, so
I remember this moment.
Yeah.
But there was this we just need to understand. Maybe if we just understand this person's.
I will say real quick, this is also an era where there are lots of people on YouTube who were developing interesting critical voices. You know, there is good YouTube shit out there that is maybe not my favorite stuff, but I do understand why people in our collective orbit do enjoy some stuff there. We put content out on YouTube, right? We used to do that. I get why that form exists. But in 2015, there was that moment where a number of folks were leading conversation that were like, maybe he's changed, right? Like everyone was like, dude, he sucked when he first hit big. This is a dude who was just like making shitty, offensive jokes for the sake of making offensive jokes. He was screaming at the top of his lungs. His recent stuff has been okay. And then
also that rhetorical exercise was born out of a larger sort of it was like PewDiePie represented something, and so the conversation around him and is he different? Should we think about it differently? Was part of a larger a dismissing of a space, which was absolutely happening.
Yes.
An outright dismissing of a space that was due to changing audience, hostility of territory. There was some shit going on that all of that represented. That was a fair point and for shitty on our ends of that spectrum. But yeah, Rob is also right that it was taken. The liberties were taken a little too far in pursuit of that.
That reflexivity that was reflectivity that was wait a second, are our motives in this dismissal pure? Is the right reflectivity? Right. Rob is also totally right, which was no, they are not. But yes, we are right about this particular fucking dude and the other dudes like him.
Correct.
Because what followed were 4 years, the last 4 years of him doubling down on his bullshit, saying slurs on stream, paying people to perform anti-Semitic acts, being linked with white nationalist movements, whether he wants to be or not, being linked with racist violence, whether he wants to be or not, not doing enough to distance himself or separate himself or disavow or condemn acts that
or even just consider.
Right, exactly.
Condemning is several steps beyond what I think the low bar was, just acknowledging the participation, whether willing or not, in an act as a person of pop culture who has enormous influence, especially given the fact that
100 million followers.
A lot of his performance in pop culture is in memes, in conversation with the sense of humor of the internet that is deployed in our larger culture to such a wide degree, and basically being what? No, I'm just a guy up dragging videos from my desktop and uploading them.
That's all I do. Yeah. I'm just a regular pro. I'm not as rich as people think that I am. I'm not this all power. Come on. Sure,
it's just
I have
a webcam, and it's you, and it's me,
and a gamer
and
chair.
We're just here having fun.
Yeah, and over the course of 4 years, the arc repeated again and again. It looped again and again. You know what? I stepped over the line. I know. I learned. I'm gonna change my tune. Until like last year, the last couple years, I would say. I guess that's like 18 months where he was like, "No, I'm doubling down. I'm doubling down. You know what? Fuck it. I am who you think I am. Political correctness has gone too far, et cetera, et cetera." And then he got quiet. I mean, he lost some deals, obviously, a couple years ago. He lost like a Disney deal. He lost a YouTube Red deal, I think, or another YouTube deal.
The TV program that there was like Scare PewDiePie, where they were like building out
spaces
and he was being filmed.
And his numbers kept going up, all said. It's not like he was like losing like YouTube subscribers by any means.
Well, the numbers go up if YouTube chooses to put, I mean, like that's like, it's, that is almost beyond his control. Like the numbers go up if YouTube chooses to put you in the algorithm feed. Like people could be leaving in droves and it won't matter as long as you're in the river.
Because enough people are going to pick you up in the river because they're 13 and are hitting yes instead of hitting yes on whoever else could be in the river. Right. That makes sense. There was a turn, I would say 3 months ago again. And this time, Rob, I was like you. I was like, I'm not fucking buying this shit. Get the fuck out of here with your Minecraft videos. He came out a few months ago and just started doing Minecraft videos. Stopped doing conversations about the world. Stopped trying to be like a Phil DeFranco style news dude. Stopped trying to like just do culture and like pure personality stuff. Started editing his own videos again. Wow, like really just getting back to his roots and playing just a whole bunch of Minecraft. And that's part of like a boom that Minecraft has had recently. That injected a whole bunch of new viewers into his subscription feed. He broke 100 million viewers. YouTube was out there celebrating. Hell yeah, PewDiePie, you did it. 100 million viewers. Fuck yeah. And he made a video that was like, you know what? Guys, I've been through some dark shit. It all kind of got to me. I made some bad decisions. I'm not going to really get into what those bad decisions are particularly, but you know what? It's all positivity from here on out. I love Minecraft and making videos for you, the gamers. And then last week, or was it earlier this week that he made this announcement? He made an announcement that he was donating $50,000 to the Anti-Defamation League, which is a Jewish charity, if people aren't familiar with it. And it's a charity that I have gone. There are absolutely reasons to criticize the ADL.
I don't want to.
I also have problems with the ADL. Yeah. I suspect mine are not because it's a Jewish charity.
Skip.
Like mine are a little different from.
Yeah, no, they're 100%.
Look, PewDiePie finally looked at what Yahoo's up to and like Israeli politics and was like, you know what? Wow, this this is complicated.
Yeah,
time gotta
plenty of issues with the ADL. But what convinced him to retract this $50,000 pledge was the feedback made by his many fans. And you can look up what that feedback looks like. And I can tell you, it is not like criticism of the ADL's Palestine policy. It is in line with a lot of the shit, a lot of the anti-Semitic shit that you see hurled around the internet all the time. PewDiePie says, quote, he didn't know a lot of things that surfaced through this whole thing about the charity. I made the mistake of picking a charity that I was advised to instead of picking a charity that I'm personally passionate about, which is 100% my fault.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
Also, in this video, is he seriously appearing wearing a jacket
I was just going to say
Cross of Malta on
yeah,
the collar?
Dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Apparently it's not even his money.
Wait, is it not his money?
No, it's sponsorship money.
Honey, the Chrome extension or whatever. He just took that and was like, "Yeah, I'll just donate that." Which on its face is sure. Mm-hmm. When $50,000 doesn't mean anything to you, then give it to someone else. But what is like his own reaction to it is just so. I just don't know what the fuck this guy's deal is anymore. I mean, I haven't known for a long time, but like, what was the point of this arc? Was it just to get in the news again. Like the mission accomplished.
Yeah,
like,
we did
he
it.
that part.
Maybe we should delete this segment. I feel like dragging him. We should leave it in.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
No, I mean, look, my feeling with Pewdiepie. So I think there's a couple things that are sincere and there's a couple things that are manipulative. And I think with Pewdiepie, genuinely you were dealing with kind of a narcissistic person who sees everything through the lens of how does this make me feel? How am I being treated? And that is his primary motivator for doing anything, and it is how he judges the impact of his actions and words on the world, which is why he has really fostered this narrative, as a lot of sort of edgelord and right-leaning figures do, of it being him versus this non-specific mainstream media that is just out to get him.
The Wall Street Journal.
Right, and just everywhere else, because he keeps putting his foot in it, and he keeps arguing that, well, I'm being taken out of context. These people just don't get it. They're misinterpreting me. Nothing I do is ever good enough for these people. And I don't think that is just manipulation. I think that is genuinely who this guy is. I think for him, when he tries to do something like distance himself at all from the alt-right, and it doesn't immediately win him accolades and forgiveness and plaudits from people covering the YouTube space and online culture. And instead, he sees himself once again recontextualized with this bad history and the following he's gotten in these spaces. He reaches the conclusion that, like, well, fuck it. If you're just going to be that way, then I'm going to, and this is where we get to the doubling down aspect. The minute he doesn't get the feedback he wants, he ends up doubling down and going to the groups that do reward him with positive feedback, which are the ones driving the worst problems and pulling him in the worst direction. But I think he wants to be among them anyway, because fundamentally, a lot of them have a similar ideology, right? I didn't choose to be this way. It's just I kept fucking up and people didn't forgive me for it. And therefore, I've become radicalized with shitty beliefs. And that's on you for not accepting me for my slightly less shitty beliefs somewhere in the past. So I think this is all pretty or like organic and real. I think this is PewDiePie on the level. And this is kind of what I've always seen with this guy, which is why I never really bought into this notion that he was in any way being misunderstood. What happened with this donation is genuinely, I think, him being referenced in the Christchurch manifesto spooked him. I genuinely, there is a huge amount of daylight between being a really shitty edgelord figure who traffics in even outright racism and being someone who is going to be at all comfortable and not feel a little bit sick when you get a shout out from a mass murderer. And for what credit this is worth, PewDiePie had not crossed this line. And so genuinely, I think he was sort of trying to figure out, I want to make clear I'm not okay with this. I do not want to be claimed by this group. But the minute he does that, and here's the trap you find yourself in when your fan base is shit, the minute he tries to do that, first of all, in his message, once again, he makes clear that it's still ultimately the media's fault for sort of boxing him in like this. In the post where he announced the donation, he said making a donation to ADL doesn't make sense to everyone, especially since they've outright spoken against me. I wanted to show publicly that I can move past it and move on. So right there, the charity is all
apology,
about him.
ADL. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. This is not at all charitable. It's not coming from a place of thinking about others. It is just him wanting to feel like he can wash his hands of things like Christchurch and any sort of connection he might have to it, and also to close the book on it. And again, trying to make that deal. Hey, I gave you $50,000. Stop calling me an anti-Semite. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And when that doesn't happen immediately, and then he hears back from his fans being like, how could you do this? You betrayed us. You're giving in to the MSM. He immediately realizes, oh shit, like one, he had no conviction behind this move to begin with. And two, he's scared of losing the people in his corner This is where you get sort of the Trump mindset, right? People who are with me are me. They are my friends. I live for this kind of affirmation from strangers. Therefore, if I see that being threatened, I will do whatever it takes to pull that back. And I think that's what unfolded here, where he didn't get the reaction he wanted. He realized he was alienating the audience he felt uncomfortable with in the first place. But the minute they're starting to approach him as fans and being like, hey, man, the ADL is a bad chair and I can't believe you give in like this.
You must be being blackmailed is, of course, one of the popular theories that came out after that was the ADL's blackmailing him. All right.
Yeah. So he completely panics and pulls the donation and then does it in a way that makes clear, like, hey, wink, wink, I'm still with you guys. Here's some weird medieval crusader heraldry for you.
Classic. It is it's one of those things. It's like what I said earlier, Rob, which is I do think that there are people who make good YouTube content. I watched there was a great video the other day on Control and Anatomy, the Kitty Horror Show game.
But I don't know why we have to say this though.
Honestly, because you were around in the blogosphere era, right? And I think that as people who were struggling at that point to try to do something with games in a form that was being dismissed by the people who were in positions of authority in our space, it was deeply demoralizing. And as critics in this space who in the early 2010s were trying to do a little bit more with a video game review, that this is how you get to the point where you launch a website without reviews. You go, well, fuck it, man. Reviews suck. Reviews are bad. I do want to encourage people who are pressing the form. And I do want them to know that they are in a struggle, that they are in a contested space, and that their voices are worth continuing to speak in that space. I don't think PewDiePie has poisoned the video form. I don't think he's a stand-in for all video makers as easily as we can make him a synecdoche for YouTube because he's had an influence. He's had a huge influence on what that form is. And because it is, what I'm really saying is shout louder, try to get in the fucking river. Right? I don't know. There's lots of talk right now about YouTube unions. There's lots of conversations about ways in which individual YouTube creators can help support each other. I think that you need to see that happen in order to compete against someone who has such outsized influence. It would be easy to hand wave it and be like, man, there is no way that we can ever shake the PewDiePie's off the throne and change what YouTube games content looks like. Yeah, motherfucker, mainstream video game outlets now are running stories about colonialism. They're running stories that say hey, maybe Greedfall steps on too many landmines. And that is not a Waypoint effort, done. That is an entire cohort of new games writers over the last decade pushing and following in the footsteps of people who started this, a decade before we started it. And culture can change. And so when I say, hey, there are good videos there, it's because I know some of the people who make those good videos listen to us. And I want to encourage them to keep fucking making those videos instead of saying you are taking fruit from a poison tree. Or all you were doing is putting it there. And I think that is a valuable thing. And I also think that it's valuable to encourage our community to find those people and champion them in the face of people like PewDiePie. I'm not this isn't cover my ass shit. This is fuck him for making a space that should be vibrant worse.
That I agree with. The thing I object to
it's also real talk. It's, hey, we've just spent 20 minutes on this fucking guy. People should go watch Control Anatomy and the Legacy of the Haunted House by Jacob Geller. That's a good video. Another video I saw this week that was good that's about anime was Racism in Dragon Ball Z as told by Yudoye over on Getting the Robot. We spent 20 minutes talking about this guy who fucking sucks. We do not shout out the people who make content that is good. And it is infuriating. There's a conversation today about the KFC visual novel that was going on this morning on Twitter between two people who do great work in our space, Anna Valens at the Daily Dot and Patricia Hernandez, who is at Polygon now, or is she at The Verge still? Mm-hmm. about why is the KFC visual novel getting all this attention right now inside of the games press? Whether is that a reflection of bottom line? I know our audience is going to get this. To be clear, in contrast with visual novels that hit every day, to what degree do those not get attention versus this getting attention because of traffic goals and et cetera, and et cetera, et cetera? And part of what the conversation there is about the difficulty of reporting on small things that we like and the ways in which our biases have been influenced and curated and cultivated to move towards big stories. I am on the side that says we have to talk about big stories. I did not start a website to only talk about indie games. I did not start a website to only talk about small YouTube video creators I like. I think it's important that we talk about the Pewdiepie thing. Rob, I'm glad that you flagged this and that we should spend the time walking through it, but we should do the work of also building people up. Literally this morning, I read a newsletter from Dongwan, who is my agent, who has a newsletter in the publishing field. Dongwan Song, he's a fantastic guy. So disclosure. And he wrote a newsletter today about the idea of sending the elevator down. Right? You get in the elevator, you go up, you fucking make it up, you claw your fucking way through. In this scenario, I guess the elevator is filled with monsters. It's tough to ride an elevator. I don't know. Maybe it's not even that. Maybe you take the stairs. And when you get to the top floor, you see, oh shit, there was an elevator here. Hit the 1 on it. Send it down to the people still there. I just want to make sure we do a little bit of that and that we don't dismiss the idea that, or that we don't fall into the trap of representing the entire space as already ruined. Because we've made those changes in this space and we should encourage others to do the same as many places as we can. And to not accept a $50,000 donation as him clearing his name to begin with. That to me is maybe the more important, bigger conversation is if he had given that $50,000, that is not a clean slate. That is not him oh, yep, everything's good now. It is what you said it was, Rob, which is silencing criticism. But I just can't, I don't want to play the zero-sum game, is I think the reason I have that strong reaction here. I hope that that's fair. Any other stuff here? What's...
Nothing about cover. I guess where I was coming from is I do not feel the need to say not all YouTubers every time we talk about PewDiePie. I think conflating him with an entire medium was a mistake in the first place. It remains a mistake. Trying to say to people doing good work in that space every time we bring up a person like this that, hey, we don't mean you. Man, I think at this point that is pretty clear. I think the thing that does... but where I would sort of shift aim a little bit is to the point Patrick brought up earlier, him also being fed by a structure and an algorithm that promotes stuff like this. At some point you do
right.
PewDiePie, I'm not sure you solve the PewDiePie problem by creating good content, because even if it's created, the difference between this and publishing, yes, people still have to chase traffic and pursue big stories, but there's still a bunch of outlets. We just cited a bunch and we only scratched the surface. We talk about YouTube, one site, one curation platform that serves this shit up again and again and again. And you can make really great critical video essays. And for some people, that will be maybe promoted into their feed because they have a certain viewing behavior that indicates they're into that stuff. But chances are they're going to get funneled into cinema sins at some point trying to do this. And so where
worse, right? Or get funneled into an alt-right and hard-right machine that can constantly spits out conspiracy theory videos, and next thing you know, you're on the Q train,
Right. And so I think that to me is the other part of this is I wish it were just, hey, we need to go out there, we need to do good work and create good counterpoints to the type of shit he's putting out in the world. But I also think at some point we need to address the fact that the entire machine is set up to kind of turn down the volume on people doing that good work and crank it to the... Man, I really need to get over these speakers.
You got it.
and really crank up the volume on the worst people putting the worst stuff out in the world.
I mean, this is why I said
that's what concerns me a lot.
It is, it's why I said like this is about organization as much as anything, right? It is about figuring out ways to build affinity networks, figuring out ways to boost each other's stuff, and honestly holding YouTube accountable, finding ways to. And the thing that's so frustrating to me is like YouTube has Alphabet has the money. Google has the money to hire curators, to figure out ways to, this is a Steam conversation too, obviously, right? But these organizations have ways to have the resources available to do the work of highlighting good creators who are doing stuff that is genuinely creative, that's genuinely critical, genuinely thoughtful, genuinely exciting. You shouldn't need to be part of, one of the videos I shouted out earlier, the one about racism in Dragon Ball Z, comes out of the Cartoon Hangover, like corporation, which is like a big business. And I don't think you should need to. The potential of YouTube is that you can be an individual creator, and it shouldn't come down to the reason I saw that is because it was part of a huge network already. There are ways that YouTube could change the way its format works to support new creators, young creators, people who are making good stuff. And I think, Rob, you're 100%
literally
right.
If the hose was pointed differently,
yes.
Like it's their choice where the hose gets pointed, and so at this point, yeah, like the structural issues are on them, less on PewDiePie. PewDiePie takes the criticism, but it's the algorithm and what it chooses to highlight as a result of their philosophical choices. Well, I mean, they're in the same spot as Twitch, right? Where their highest, the highest trafficking people also tend to be their worst, and then that creates an incredibly negative cycle that we just play out over and over and over again.
Definitely. It's all very frustrating, and it's a space that I wish, Twitch especially, I think, actually, where there was more transparency in what that process actually looked like.
That doesn't help them, though, because then
of course
you can be held accountable for rules. Like the obliqueness, that's the lack of transparency is part of the part of the footprint.
Is there other less infuriating news from this week that we would like to touch upon before we wrap up?
So I don't know. I didn't watch that TGS, the 50-minute
I watched like 25 minutes of it. Man, I told this to Cado right before we started. If anyone who complained about stamina bars in Breath of the Wild says they love this game, I'm going to be pissed. It's different. It is different. But
a lot of bars.
A lot of particular. So we're talking about Death Stranding. There was a 50-minute long Death Stranding video that came out of TGS this week.
In which, like, man, there was a note from Kojima that was like, hey, people don't seem to understand what this game is. Do you trust me? If you trust me, don't watch this video. If you want to know more of like literally the structure of this game, he's like to the point where I think he changed elements in the descriptors and like character names to like hide plot elements, but that you could watch it and understand like a flow of like an hour of playing Death Stranding, which I mean is fair. Like even I know a little more of the flow of the game because like a year ago somebody told me, but like absent that information, even watching everything that's come forth prior to this 15-minute video, like still, I mean, I could tell you like, yeah, you explore some broken United States,
right,
and there's ladders.
Can I describe stuff and tell me if it matches what you heard or like lines up with? So I'd say like 25, 30 minutes of this demo before anything like combat happened, right? This is like a lot of this game was like balancing packages on your back. Dude, honestly, yes.
Yeah.
No, well, like not balancing like a mini game.
Like, can't you can like items on the ground that other players have left?
I think so. I saw a bit where you were spraying something on an item.
Actual like plus ones, like
wow, I love
it. Items that you consider stand on a toilet.
You consider, okay, wow, I didn't see that. I saw a lot of opening up a map and be like, how the fuck do I get over there? All right, I guess I'll go here. Yeah. Oh hell yeah. There's a bit where so
which is cool.
You're a mailman, or you're like a delivery person, right? You're delivering. The thing I just did was I didn't want to say mailman. I was like, what's postal delivery? What's the word I'm looking for? How do I ungender this in my brain? And what I went to was mailman, which is not. That's as if it was of the New Hampshire mailmans, which is not right.
Is that an XFL team?
Yeah, the New Hampshire mailmans. You're a courier. Thank you, Rob. Thank you for being my brain today. And that means delivering stuff to these like cities that seem to be, I don't know if they're underground bunkers. Like, I don't know what they are, because you don't see a lot of cities. You see like tiny little settlements here and there, and you see a lot of like bunkers that you go to the doors of and drop some packages off. And this demo starts with them putting 30 different packages on the back of Norman Reedus. Just like a huge, like firm, hard backpack style like thing. Just slotted in with a bunch of different shit. Everything you take is physical on his body. Then he's like, all right, I'm going to make a note on my map where I'm going. I'm going to make a route here. I'm going to walk this route. I'm going to walk in nature. I'm going to walk over these mountains. I'm going to try to ford a river. And that bit, forge a river. Right?
No, Ford.
Ford was right.
Ford.
See, my brain is
Is
bad.
there a J in there?
There's
no, they're
J.
both. I think they're both right.
Okay.
Is the thing, but I think one might be a corruption of the proper term.
That
but
makes
I can't
sense to me.
remember.
Okay.
This is where I got to the stamina thing. So I was watching this moment where you're swimming across this river. You're kind of like walking through parts of it. Then the river picks him up a little bit, and your stamina meter is like, there's a full meter. And that decreases slowly as you're crossing this river. Then as you move like quickly, as you try to like hustle across, it decreases faster, and the total amount gets reduced too. Right? And so by the halfway point of this river, he was down to half stamina and was only getting it back when you're like standing still to recover your stance. And then he got to a deep part and it all just vanished, and he got picked up by the river, and it switches to like paddle left, paddle right. And he loses one of the packages. It gets separated from him. He's like, oh, I'm trying to get back on my feet, and then try to grab the package before it floats away. And when you lose packages or when you set them down, it will tell you like, oh, you don't have enough stuff to go turn in such and such a quest anymore. There's another point where he like
You have to press a button to catch your breath when you get out of this river.
He gets out of that river and he's like, all right, hold still, catch your fucking breath. All right, everything's okay. You're at the point I'm talking about. A little bit later, there's a bit where he gets on a hover skateboard, but to do that, he can't do it with all the shit on his back. So he has to put a bunch of packages down. And it felt like a moment when he was like, all right, I'm going to leave these up here near this rock. I'm going to hover skateboard down this mountain to a settlement to drop off the packages I'm still carrying. Then I'll come back up and get the rest of them. There's moments where you're using ladders to cross ravines and using ropes to descend from stuff. And like all of that stuff, honestly, fuck me up, fam. Like, I am ready to play a game that is about the logistics of long distance travel. Like, I hope I have to eat stuff in this game. I hope I have to cook. And then the other half of it, Rob, I'm saying Rob here because like there are some stalker vibes here. There's a moment where you cross a virtual line, and it's like, oh, you're out of the chiral zone now. Like, I don't know what the chiral zone is, but I don't want to be out of it. And then like a little bit further in is when you finally get some combat, and it is against some very strange apparitions in what looks like a ruined, like more urban environment. And it all seemed very chaotic. I mean, so Stalker obviously the apparitions are stranger than things you could conceive of. They're not like, there is a big weird chimera.
It's a dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh shit, it's a dog. It's real bad.
It's a mad dog. Or it's a guy with a gun is the stuff that you end up against sometimes. In Stalker, obviously, it's like, there's a ball of electricity in this room, and there's a guy with a gun, and I'm more afraid of the guy with the gun because he wants to kill me. He isn't just going to kill me. But that stuff seemed really neat and visually pretty striking too. I only skimmed the back half of that video, but, I have my issues with Hideo Kojima, but I'm ready to disappear into a game where I'm climbing a mountain for 30 hours or whatever. Yeah. It is going to be interesting to see how that game is received, because it feels like an extension of stuff in Metal Gear Solid 5 that is not just the military stuff.
But not in the direction I thought.
Yes, 100%.
Like, there were different paths he could have walked after that game, and this one appears to be the big open space, but just not with that much in it. But there's depth at a different angle, and that angle involves ladders apparently.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm into this because like what it really sounds like to me is like Tarkovsky Stalker.
Yeah, that's really what I mean. You're right.
Or maybe like something like Picnic at Hanging Rock, where, and I'm super into that form of like horror and tension, where like what are you even afraid of? Like, it's just an empty landscape. It's just nature, but it is also somehow recast, and you're sort of given time to just soak that in. But the thing that is so hard about doing something like that is you end up struggling with some of the pacing issues that I think are almost inherent to what we sort of call the walking simulator genre, where as much as you want that downbeat moment, that long lingering traversal of open space, there is also a point where, and this will be different for different people, but there will be a point where you decide, like, I think I'm ready to move on to the next thing. I think I have seen enough. And that's going to be a really personal thing. It's going to be a really hard thing to dial in. And to some extent, evoking that feeling necessarily means you're going to control the pacing a little bit more and take it a little bit out of the player's hands. And I think that gets tricky. I think to something like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, a game that I did not like at the time, but have also never really stopped thinking about. And I think a big part of that is the act of playing it frustrated the shit out of me. And the moments that it unfurled really landed for me, and they sort of stuck with me. But just that sort of glacial, no, you are going to see that point B all the way across that field. You're going to walk there. Mm-hmm. And it's like Todd Howard's come into your house and is like holding you hostage. And it's like, no, you're going to walk to that mountain. Mm-hmm. And that gets a little, that can easily be frustrating for different people.
Correction. Earlier I said that Norman Reedus, Sam, what's his last name in this? What's the character?
Bridges.
Is it Sam Bridges?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
is it Sam?
He's building bridges. I think it's Sam.
I thought it was like another word for courier or another word for bridge.
No, yeah, Sam Bridges.
Okay. Very funny. He was going down there to, it looks like what I would say is choke some motherfuckers out and take their shit. So there you get some stealth action in here also. Yeah, Rob, I think that you're totally right when it comes to that pacing question. And it is why I'm curious about the reception, because the fandom around the Metal Gear games is one of a certain sort of trust and it's a mix of trust with experimentation and an openness to rationalization. A lot of things that those games do, I think, would have been rejected if they'd come from other designers or were dressed up in different packaging, if they didn't come along with certain characters or certain settings, like which is not meant as a total criticism of Kojima. It very much is like, yo, man, if you have that buy-in, do something cool with it.
That's more on the community, like the fan culture around him, than it is on him as a designer. Even if he plays into
like
that.
It's like I'm so much happier looking at the Metal Gear games and being like, it's like goes back to the Armored Core thing I was saying before. That 5 is so different from 4, which is different from 3, which is, close to 2, but there were some moves that I would be if there had been just 5 Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2s. You know what I mean? I keep meaning to go back and play more 5, actually. It's been like top of mind lately. Some of the narrative stuff there really sucks, but that experience of like figuring out a strategy for approaching a base and clearing it is the most fun I've had doing that sort of thing since Far Cry 2.
I liked the approach, and then the moment I pulled the trigger, it was like just a real down. Like I've never liked the way just like those games feel in combat. Just never got a handle on them. So it was always like, I loved the approach and exploring in 5. 5, like the moment, the actual info. 5, like the combat was the best it had been for me, but only on a certain scale. Like there were definitely, I have such a strong memory of having a way too extended gunfight next to a river in some side mission in that game that just wouldn't fucking end. And it was infuriating and not fun at all. So I think, it's like if I go back and commit to being just very stealthy and not doing the thing where I let grenades roll down hills, maybe I'll actually have more fun. I don't know. We'll see. There's some cool vehicles in this trailer.
I don't know.
This
That
game
game's
seems
on-
more in like. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say 5's on Game Pass, isn't it?
Wow, is it?
Pretty sure.
Yeah. So there is a Metal Gear collection on Game Pass, and I was kind of curious if it's good.
Huh.
It's like it might be 2 and 3.
Okay. Have you played through those games before, Rob? I know there was like a pretty big PC
No, because
period.
you have to remember how quickly Metal Gear Metal Gear came out, and then almost overnight you were dealing with Metal Gear fans. And there are a few things more off-putting than having people just narrate the entire plot of Metal Gear 2 to you without you ever having seen it at all.
Yes.
And for years I was kind of prejudiced against these games because instantly just hearing about Metal Gear and people trying to tell me like, hey, you should give Metal Gear a shot instantly transported me back to like waiting in line outside gym class for the period to start and somebody just being like, so then it's your brother Ocelot, and I'm like, dude's name is Ocelot, and he's like, yeah. I was like, is he an Ocelot? It's like, no, it's a spy game. And yeah, it's like just an endless like who's on first throughout like high school and shit.
That's fair. I don't know. I am 1 to 5 fan. I know.
Really?
I like. I
played
don't
1.
like 3. 3 was monotonous for me to play through. But I think. I don't know. I want Rob to play these games now.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Yeah, actually.
I badly want Rob's take on this whole series. I hadn't thought about it until now, but
He'd hate it and then also love it, and he'd love that he hated it.
yeah.
I need to play 5.
Something that really frustrates me is I often hate things in the moment, and then 3 years later, when I've been sort of turning it over in my mind nonstop ever since, I'm like, it's like that fucking romantic comedy moment where someone's like, man, like for someone you hate, you sure do talk about her a lot. And it's like, what? And then it's like, that's me and a lot of art that I've come to treasure.
Yeah.
Is like, let me tell you why that thing fucking sucks. Oh, but here's what you're going to say. Here's your interpretation, but here's why it's wrong. Because actually, the subtext of that entire sequence is, and the next thing I know, it's like, damn.
I really want you to play 2
I really
now.
care about this.
I really want you to play all of them. I really do.
Yeah.
If only we had the time. If only we could have the ability to make Rob Zacny play through all of Metal Gear. It would be so good. Are you gonna
we'll
play?
just do our next 101 on it.
Yeah, our next 101 will be the Metal Gear series. Lore Reasons Metal Gear. We're finally
We'll just
got
squeeze that in.
Yo,
We'll
actually.
squeeze it in. No big deal, right?
No problem.
We got the staff size for it now.
No games out right now either.
None. No. This is like it's
Slow.
a
Real
real
slow
dry period. Yeah, so I felt like maybe
dry.
we could sneak in every Metal Gear real quick. God, there's like a boss fight in this that looks.
Goose Game comes out next week.
What does?
Goose Game.
Goose Game. I thought you said Ghost Game. Did you see their
Untitled
tweet
Goose
today?
Game.
Did you see their tweet today? The Untitled Goose Game tweet.
No.
They were like, we want to make something clear. I'm paraphrasing. We want to make something clear. We keep seeing this brought up. People are saying the name of our game is Untitled Goose Game. It's officially called Untitled Goose Game. That is not the name of the game. The game is untitled. The game does not have a name. Untitled Goose Game is not its title. Fuck off. It's so good. You know what? That's fair.
Look, motherfuckers. I went to fucking grad school for art.
Uh-huh.
You put Untitled on a goddamn nameplate. That is the fucking title.
That's the title.
God damn it.
Listen, motherfuckers. I went to GameStop, and they said, what are you here to buy? And I said, Untitled Goose Game. And they said, do you want to join our Power Up Rewards program? Also, we're about to lay off a bunch of people, unfortunately. That's not good. And I said, I'm sorry
see you
to
brought
hear
a new
that.
copy of Goose Game over. How about I give you this used copy from below the counter? $5 off.
Also, I'm taking all the furniture and fixtures here. Bye. God. Anything else out of TGS? The new Final Fantasy trailer. I didn't watch the gameplay one, but I watched like the story one. You know what? I'm in. Let's go.
Sure.
This giant holographic Shinra CEO. Sure.
I just think if that game is like, 30, 40 hours long, that's a long time to spend in like
In
a
Midgar.
very samey looking space.
I don't think it's going to
and
be
I'm curious
40
how they
hours.
will-
Do you think it's going to be 40 hours?
Well, like it's probably 20 to 30 hours. That would be my actual guess.
The combat looked really cool. There was some cool exploring using. There's a moment where Barrett uses a gun to clear a tunnel, which is good, like to clear rubble out of a tunnel. Good.
They're keeping the cross-dressing sequence. There's some stuff.
Mark Hamill is in the cross-dressing sequence.
What?
Oh,
Don Corneo, the shitty dude.
Oh, he's voicing
he's voicing Don Corneo.
All right.
That seems.
So they're doing that. The guy who, to be clear, I just want to be clear, Don Corneo is not the character who cross-dresses. Cloud cross-dresses to infiltrate Don Corneo's.
I forget.
It's been so long.
Where does the chocobo racing happen?
Outside of Midgar.
Okay.
Later.
That's
Much later.
Then at some point I did play this, and I have scrubbed it from my memory.
I mean, there's chocobo racing in a lot of these.
No, like 7.
And they may squeeze stuff like that in.
Oh, you're saying you played some 7.
I played 7 up to chocobo racing, and then
That's still disc 1. You can still do it in disc 1, right? Or is that disc 2? Do you leave Midgar and is that the end of disc 1?
well, I was on the PC.
I think that's the end of
version.
disc 1.
Oh, so it doesn't even.
It doesn't even track that way. Also, fucking. This happened a couple weeks ago, and I forgot to say it because there's no reason to bring it up otherwise. But I found in a free box the PC version, the Eidos published PC version.
Oh, the old PC version
of Final Fantasy VII.
Wow.
The discs look clean. I think I'm going to
Okay.
finish that game on PC for old time's sake.
Disc 1 is way later.
Nowhere else to buy Final Fantasy VII in
No,
a more
not at
convenient
all.
format.
The end of disc 1 is way later than I thought it was. Huh. You were out.
It's not after you leave?
It is not after you leave. You do a bunch of shit afterwards, it looks like.
You ain't leaving that city in episode 1 of this,
I don't
though.
think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think, Patrick, what I'm going to say is the thing happens at the end of disc 1.
Yeah.
And that's not in that city.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't the motorcycle bit leaving the city?
Yes.
There's motorcycles in this.
Well, then maybe they leave the city,
that's like the end,
but it's like hard. I got to imagine that's how they end
Right.
the first chapter
Right.
is with that.
It would be dope if they didn't. It would be dope if they were like, no, this is through. But it hasn't been enough time since they announced it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they got a good pipeline. Maybe they hired extra people so that they wouldn't have to work people to the bone and make them work overtime to make a huge game too quickly.
Yo, this Ring Fit game looks cool
Yo,
as hell.
okay, so
and
can I tell
want
you a
to play
thing
it.
that everyone should do just to replicate the experience I had this morning with this game to make this all about me again? Is hit play, then mute the video after you hear the snap, after you hear the switch button, because that's what happened to me the first time I hit play. So I just thought the first 30 seconds were intentionally silent of these two conventionally attractive white people holding this weird, like, firm hula hoop
shake weight
thing, and
kind of it's shake weight adjacent.
it's adjacent to a shake weight.
It's adjacent insofar as
weight.
it will make you make the same goofy ass movements that are going to be gift over
squeezing
and over
and
again.
shaking and moving, and they are in their best business casual, and they are like facing the camera with very big smiles, very big eyes, presumably talking about fitness. And I was just like, is this oh wow, I can't believe Nintendo got a Black Mirror season just dedicated to it, because that's what it, without audio on, the first 30 seconds of that trailer feels like.
Or it looks like an FMV from
Yes.
Control.
Yes.
Like they're explaining something they found in the oldest house, which is this weird ring
of power.
device.
The Ring Fit is an object of power. What is Ring Fit? Why are you excited about Ring Fit, Patrick?
It's they made like a JRPG that is attached to this. So it's a ring that you put one of the Joy-Cons into, and you hold the Joy-Con goes at like at the top.
It's like a big ring. It's not like a little ring.
It's a big ring, like it's I don't know, like it's a couple feet long, and then it bends and squishes, and then you can hold it on the left and right, and then you put the other Joy-Con into like a gun holstery type thing that like gets strapped to your leg.
I think it's called a
And it's using those accelerometers to like track your the one's tracking your leg, and then the other is tracking this ring.
Apparently,
and then
it's also
you're
tracking the tension.
Sure.
There's extra sensors where like as you squeeze, it can tell, but it's not just like the Joy-Con
HD
doing
rumble,
that.
HD exercise.
Something.
I believe it.
Yeah.
And you're playing. They have like different, like just straight up exercises, but also you are like playing like a mild JRPG, like where you're like, when you're running through the world. So
Yep.
it's like tracking your runs. And then there are like combat sequences where different poses and exercises are your attacks. And so it's like, they might be weak to, I don't know,
Squats.
like an ab workout or a squat.
Well, no, 'cause the ab one, remember the ab one is your defense.
Is that a defense?
Yeah, defense is squeezing this ring against your abs. But like there's like, yoga style attacks, and there's, arm strength style attacks and squat style attacks. They're all different exercises.
There's different skills like squat, knee to chest. I'm looking at the video now, and it's
They're like color coded to
it's
the
just really
enemies,
charming.
so you know which ones to pick and all that. Like, weaknesses.
This is getting dragged right now. I'm with you, Patrick. I think
You're getting fuck no, I'm all in.
yeah.
Give me this. Give me.
I got a
give me
really
gimmicky
big
exercise
team,
bullshit.
and they need some really big rings, as Drake and Future said years ago. I really think that this has a place in my life. I would try this. This seems real talk. Like the fact that it's tied to a thing that has ongoing progress.
Yeah.
Unlike something, I don't think Wii Fit did that. Like Wii Fit.
Ongoing progress.
Your body obviously has ongoing progress.
It tracked what you were doing, but it didn't have like you weren't like leveling up a character related to your exercise.
Right.
It's
exactly.
further gamified the specific like progress
that you were making for yourself, which is the thing that should matter to me.
Right.
But if I can get my character's sit-up skill maxed out, then I'm going to finally be able to take over that skeleton castle, and we'll see what happens from there.
And there's a reason I did DDR for so long. It's just, it's
fun.
It's fun.
It's fun.
Right? Like,
it's fun. Who knows if this is
also-
actually fun, but I'll try it. Hell
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
It
Definitely.
looks all right.
Yeah, I'm down.
So.
Totally. Other news this week. Did you already hit Cube World?
Did we? I don't
you
think
talk
so.
about-
No.
I mean,
Cube World.
I mean, what is Cube World's back?
It's back, baby. It's back. I always held out hope. We've talked about Cube World before.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. Compared to my friends, I did. Compared to my friends.
On a scale of
maybe what I really mean is I was never that mad compared to a lot of people. Not because I
never thought that game looked that good, so I didn't really understand what people were all so mad about.
I had the opposite experience, which is I spent $30 on that game in 2013 or whatever, and then I had a good time with it. And then it stopped getting updates, and it was not finished. The game I played in 2013 or 2014 or whatever was not at all a finished video game. But I had like a good summer with that game. I probably put 40 hours into that game, maybe put 20 hours in that game. I had a good time. And did I hope that it would get finished? Absolutely. But I never felt like I lost out. Even then, I was dirt broke in that. I was making 15 grand a year or something. I put 30 of those dollars towards Cube World. But my like 10 sessions playing with friends, I got what I needed out of that. So for me, seeing him update this game, theoretically coming out September or October, he says. We'll see if he hits that. I'm excited to try some more of it. It was a very charming game. It was a game that was in the right moment at the time when that alpha hit, and now it's hard to know. I mean, I thought it was going to be hard to know. Has the moment passed? But that trailer immediately got hundreds of thousands of views, like instantly. People are excited about it again. I think, honestly, the fact that Minecraft is having a moment is well timed for this release to hit, because it has voxel style, graphics that are based on cubes, like the name Cube World might suggest.
Right.
There's a video that's like a 9-minute long gameplay demo that's probably worth watching because it just gives you like, all right, here is what this game is. Here is like what an arc of this game is. Here's what's sitting down, exploring this procedurally generated world, fighting some bosses, fulfilling some quests, getting some upgrades, blah blah blah. Here it is. Like this is what it looks like, and I'm down for it. I'm ready for it. I thought I had like one more thing that was not a TGS thing, but now I'm forgetting.
We don't need to talk about the Borderlands stuff.
Well, now you've said it. We don't have no.
I got a code.
Did you get a code?
I got a code. I got a code.
No
I
more
haven't
security concerns. Did they tell you security
security
concerns?
concerns.
Was that the line that you got also?
Yeah.
Okay. You
Yes,
believe it?
Yes.
Given what?
No, I think that game was coming in extremely hot, and they were trying to keep a tight window on who could play that game and try and encourage Which is that's their right. There's I have no I should make it clear like there's no fundamental right to get access to play Borderlands 3 early. What I take issue with is just tell me straight. Yeah. Like the PR people have tiers. They restrict who gets access to games. We are constantly on those tiers in which the PR people tell you like, hey, don't tell your colleagues you have a copy of this game. And that's I get it. Part of that is like they trust certain outlets at different ranges when like things are they're worried they're gonna get linked. This happens a lot with like Japanese companies who are like much more strict about story leaks and stuff like that. But 2K telling me like, yeah, you're not gonna get code till like 24 hours before because security concerns. I'm just like, just tell me I'm just not at the top of it's fine. Yeah. I'm good. Like my ego's not gonna take the hit. I'm just trying to do coverage plans. And so
So
it was just strange.
You'll play that game over the weekend, presumably, and talk about the guns.
Yeah, I've never played the first two.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm like, my whole approach of it was gonna like writing impressions of a game, of a series like 3 games in, like what it's like to play Borderlands 3. I have a friend down the street who's an obsessive. Like it's his favorite series. Like is just, it's his thing. So I was curious to check it out, but we'll see. So yeah, I don't know. I don't have a great take on the code situation. It's just, I mean, the game seems fine. That was all the reviews were just like, yeah, it's Borderlands, which is, I think we could have told you that 6 months ago when it was announced.
Well, I tell you, 4 months ago when we played it at E3.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, it's Borderlands.
Yeah, it's Borderlands.
There is one more.
For better or worse,
yeah.
it's,
Yeah. One more piece of news that I think we need to address.
Okay.
The roadmap, the live game roadmap was announced for Control.
Yeah, hey, if you've not played Control, this is the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
Like you're good.
You're good.
Like because we're gonna go into. I was tapped on the hand by people at Vice, the social media team, for the way I wrote a headline for this.
Wait, really?
Because I didn't want to spoil it for you. Not in like a bad. I'm teasing, but
I know I've seen those conversations happen in Slack, and now I can see them happen in Slack in dark mode. Shout outs to there being dark mode.
It's great.
Yeah.
I intentionally wrote a headline about this DLC because I thought its implications, if you hadn't played Control or somehow had not seen some of the stuff in Control, if you're a stan, that you would have been mad hearing about it. So anyway, yeah, I guess you should skip to the end of this podcast if you don't want that part spoiled for a bit. Yeah, it seems like they're gonna fucking make a Alan Wake crossover, and I am losing my mind.
They already did.
I know, but like. Them putting in a note that explains why the mugs were a collectible that Alan Wake had to collect, which is probably in my top 10 like favorite bits of Control, is coming up with a narrative explanation for a shitty collectible. Funny. Like I'm here for the Great Remedy retcon. I think it's beautiful. But them coming up with a retcon that explains why you collected those shitty collectibles is just beautiful. Like I was. Oh, so good.
So that's next year. It's like they have a huge like path of things coming out over the next.
I did not expect this to be a live game.
Content roadmaps. There's also
it's a season pass. Yeah. I don't know that it's any different than a lot of games. I don't know if I go quite to live game. I mean, we'll see what the expeditions are. So
some of these feel like pure. I don't know.
What do you consider a live game?
So the thing for me here is like this is such a narratively focused game that I feel like the expansions that they teased at the end of this roadmap seem more like what I would assume is going to happen. Mm-hmm. But the things between then and now feel more gameplay focused.
Everybody does a photo mode though.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm curious about Expeditions, but it's probably it says new game mode for Expeditions. That's probably some sort of like
right.
Which makes me feel like I need to like lower your expectations on what that is. Right. It's probably just like a reason to go around the map.
That's what I mean. Like I didn't expect that sort of thing to even be a thing they were trying to do with this game. Is like go around the map.
They have the timed missions already in the game, so it kind of goes hand in hand with that. But those time missions, I stopped listening to. Every time that like big blaring signal went off, I was like, hey. Go back to maintenance and shoot. And I'm good.
That's
like I
part
really
of what
don't need a loot drop.
Is that like that all like I'm not super far into the game, but like that all feels like not. It doesn't feel like what the game is even like. It's like I can ignore that and like I don't understand why it's even in there in the first place.
That's what they think the game is, though. So that is
weird.
what the game
Right,
is.
yeah.
So I know that, you can just play it as like just equip whatever loot you get, go up the next level, and just ignore. Like, you can just ignore all that stuff, and it really doesn't make a material impact. But the Remedy thinks that's what the game is. So the expedition stuff, I just hope it's more than just another set of randomized enemies. Like, hopefully it's some sort of meaningful reason. But it's hard for me to understand what it would be unless you can think of something better, Rob.
No, I mean, like, my fear is that what we get are like, look, we added a couple rooms to the oldest house and an adventure is going to happen in there. And that, like, look, I'll be happy to go around to different parts of the oldest house, and that's cool. But at the same time, like, if you're sort of playing the Alan Wake card, if you're saying that there was this connection between these two stories and Alan Wake is actually a pivotal character in the Control universe, then I kind of want to go back to Bright Falls or somewhere else entirely weird.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right?
Get back to the Cauldron Lake area.
The framework of Control opens the door to a lot of different locations they could go to, both stuff in their own history, in Remedy's own history, but also new locations. Like, that's some of the coolest stuff to read about and get kind of glimpses of here and there in that game. And, like, I don't know, there's a whole world of weird shit to explore.
Yeah.
Let's do it. That'll be fun.
And if they can find a way where, like, Control's a hit, and there's been some rumblings that, like, they're interested in revisiting Alan Wake. Like, there's a reason beyond just, like, retconning that they reacquired the rights to Alan Wake from Microsoft. I'm curious what that would be. But if all that happens as a result of this is just closure for, like, that character and that arc via Control, like, that's just really satisfying. And that's more than I ever would have expected we would ever get. I've kind of given up on the whole Alan Wake thing, and it's hard for me to imagine them even doing a sequel because it just seems like the appeal of that is going to be pretty limited. But maybe if you wrap it in Alan Wake sequel is Control sequel, then you've got, you're cooking with something there. Like, maybe they team up and something like that. Like,
that's definitely where I thought.
Go.
That's definitely where I think this has to go.
Or at least that's what happens in this
Remedy cinematic universe is coming.
And there's 2 story expansions. There's the Foundation, which seems to be an expansion of an area that you briefly visit towards the end of Control, without getting into the specifics of what that is. But I guess you could say, Rob, that does sound like, if that's Ati time, then I'm ready to go in his Nordic bath or whatever it is that he appears to be up to at various points in that game.
What a great sequence. He just goes to his lake house cabin and takes a little vacation.
I gotta play more of that game.
Yeah, me too. I'm so glad to be done with Monster Hunter so I could jump back in.
That's how it be sometimes.
This is literally what I did last
the grind,
night.
Baby.
Yeah.
Now you in it.
Oh shit! I gotta write about the Genesis Mini next week.
Do you mean
I don't
today?
think so.
I mean,
What? Really?
The embargo was today.
Yeah.
The embargo I have written down is the 19th.
Nope.
What the fuck?
Today. Reviews went out today.
Jesus.
That's the release date.
Jesus Christ.
Uh-huh. Any new thoughts on the Genesis Mini? Briefly?
No, I mean,
Same shit?
same shit. It's
Well, let's talk after the recording.
yeah.
We'll talk.
Yep.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you for joining us today. I did get a weird question in my email that someone wants to know, and it seems like this is a follow-up to something, that is tahini peanut butter. Does that ring any bells to y'all?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
No.
Heard of it.
Weird. Okay.
What?
It's fine. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Austin Walker. You can follow me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. Cado, where can people follow you?
Wait, what just happened?
At @A_Cado_appears. Patrick, how about you? Where can people find you on the internet?
At Patrick Klubnik.
Rob, how about
Find
you?
me hanging out with a skeleton.
Oh, nice.
Rob Zachney.
Follow everything we do, twitter.com/Waypoint, waypoint.vice.com. Shout outs to Bowen for letting us use the track Miss You of the EP Pale Machine. Find out more about that at waypoint.zone/BOEN.
I don't know what's happening anymore.
Sucks to be a Jets fan.
Sucks to
Don't
be
get
a Jets
mono.
fan. Shout outs to Danielle, who I hope sends us lots of pictures from the Us theme park not theme park.
That's right. Halloween Horror Nights.
Halloween Horror Nights. She announced on Twitter
yeah.
that she was going. So very excited.
She announced on Twitter the embargo is up
You know,
on Danielle's trip.
She announced that she's headed to Halloween Horror Nights. Have a good time, Danielle. We'll be back next week with some more. Peace.
I feel like I blacked out.
No, they were just
Poor Cado.
Everyone said no at the same time. I'm like, what the fuck?
No, that's the
like
right
has a
response.
meltdown over
No,
like,
yeah.
like, what? Is this a bit? We don't do bits on this podcast. What are you?
No,
I didn't realize the bit was happening.
It's fine. It's funnier. It's good. It's a good bit.
Well, no, see, it wasn't really like we were both just kind of doing the whole like, nope, nobody here but us chickens thing.
Right.
But
Yeah,
you not getting
yeah.
it, like made it. Like
Yeah,
that, just-
100%.
Yeah.
What much better bit now for the listener, for sure.
They're perpetually in a state of like, wow, we just got blown the fuck up again in our division.
What?
That Belichick just like demolishes dynasties. He's like what LeBron did to
Yes.
Eastern Conference teams,
Yes.
like the Patriots have done to the AFC.
There's a degree of like, it's just like everyone hears the footsteps, right? And your job as a coach in the AFC East is like, all right, I know we have to play the Patriots twice. I have to give you the confidence to believe we can get wins. And like
That's the Bears and that's the Bears
Sure.
and the Packers. Like
Sure.
at the end of the day, the Super Bowl means so much less than those games.
did you all talk about that game?
Yeah, we're doing like a Monday after like our post pod is just Rob and I
All right, good.
having a moment.
I just wanted to make sure because that game sucked. And not only because the Bears lost, so I was pulling for you.
So bad. It
was
was
a-
just
what
a
a-
garbage game. It was garbage.
God. Time dot is.
My brain feels broken because every time anyone says time dot is, I finish it with a flat circle. And I can't stop it. I can't stop it from doing that. It just does it on
I
its
still
own.
never saw the third season.
I never saw second either. I heard
Second,
mixed.
I like
things.
second, but it's not a thing I recommend because I
Yeah.
think that all the criticism is fair.
Right.
But it hits like a very particular spot of LA neo-noir that I love. And there's some real fucking scene chewing in that. In the chewery is what I wanted to say. Scene chewery
Chewery.
from like Vince Vaughn that I think is goofy and I love it. There's that long speech he
I
gives
was
at the end of that
thinking-
act or end of that season that I fucking every time I'm gonna watch it and I'll be like, yeah, I don't know, it works for me.
That first season, I was thinking about this the other day. Like now that I've sort of gotten some distance from it, that first season of True Detective, like it's not a very good mystery. It's not like well plotted, and I'm not even sure it's that well written. But my God, are McConaughey and Harrelson just so incredible at it that like
that's what it
the
is.
entire thing just works on their conviction.
It's a vehicle for them and their charisma and their rapport, and like I'm here for it. It's fine. I mean, and that is also narratively the focal point, right? Like it is these two men and their relationship, and you know, we got a lot of stories about these two men and their relationship, but it's a good one of those, and they're fun characters who, you know, I think it was so much at the time there was a degree of like, I would have cast this the other way. I would have cast Harrelson as the one off his rocker and like a little eccentric and a little, you know, burned out from the job and turned into a, you know, seeing things guy. And McConaughey is the straight man, but like flipping it worked. All right. Are we ready to do a podcast?
At 55?
I closed time that is, so no. I was like, are we ready to do a podcast? And I went back to my own notes. All right, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds. I was a little late, Cado, but it's fine.
It's fine. I'll
You'll figure it out. It'll be
figure
close
it out
enough.
with all those fucking.
Uh-huh.